at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Oh, yeah. The weekend is here, Sue Thomas.
Oh, thank goodness.
I know, it's about time, right? This has been I don't know why. Maybe because of the election. It's been a little bit of a long week.
I think that's it, yeah.
On the topic of the election, we may touch on that here in the Reardon Roundtable. You all set to go, though, here on a Friday? Feeling good?
Oh, yeah.
I played a little Forest Park pickleball today.
Love that you go there. It's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So probably lost more games than I won today, but these things happen.
That's
right?
okay.
Let me introduce our roundtable panel this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who yesterday morning or Wednesday morning said, "What is your Venmo?" because he owed me $100 for a bet on Amendment 5. The one and only Greg Keller. How are you, Greg?
He pays.
Yeah,
well,
that's
something
true.
to be learned.
I don't pay. I don't know if you know that because I got a bet with you on California, right?
Mm-hmm. No, that's with Jeff Smith.
That's just with Smith?
Just with
Smith.
Smith.
So I'm
I didn't
good.
take that one.
All right, good. I feel good.
I'm good. I'm $100 lighter, but I'm doing well.
I think you're fine. Good to see you. We have Ed Rohde in the studio with us as well. He's another political consultant. Greg is with Atlas Strategy. Hello, Ed. How are you this afternoon?
Great. Thanks for having me.
All right, where do we start? Let's kind of start on Amendment 4 and Amendment 5, and then, full disclosures on this stuff, too, guys, when you work on stuff. But, Greg, you did work on Amendment 5, right? I don't know if you were doing stuff on 4. Were you doing stuff on 5 then?
I was just on 5.
Sure. Okay. How'd that go for you? Can I ask you that?
Not great.
Okay.
Not great. I think everyone saw the results. I think going into it, if you're being honest with yourself, you knew it was a seriously uphill battle. I don't want to say that I knew that we were going to lose, but I didn't feel great going into Election Day. I did not foresee the 80-20 response, more or less, which is what we ended up getting. I think there is a tendency right now to overwrite what those results were. And I think people are trying, particularly on the left, are trying to say that Missourians are against tax cuts, full stop. That is not accurate. This state has been passing tax cuts comprehensively and pretty well for about 10 to 15 years now. I think what they bucked up on at this point was they wanted to see a 100% concrete plan. Not just we are going to eliminate the income tax, but how are you going to fill that hole? What taxes on what goods, what services are you going to raise? And this proposal said we're going to leave it to members of the legislature.
Right.
And I think that's what the people were bucking up at, was number one, the fact that there was not a 100% spoken for concrete plan. And number two, the fact that Missourians, and I think this is very healthy, have a very healthy skepticism about the political class right now. So I think that's how we got to where we are.
Hang on it. There you go.
To follow up on what Greg...
Can you do me a favor? I'm going to switch you out here. We got a hum in that microphone. Can you see if you get a little closer? I know it's uncomfortable to make you sit closer to Greg, but grab that mic there just because I think it's going to sound better. We've got a couple of little hiccups in the studio that we're trying to get around.
Is that better?
It is better. It is better, actually, yeah.
I was just going to follow up on what Greg said, and I think there was, since there was so much confusion and misinformation, that, what I was seeing, too, is like literally every special interest group out there, from teachers to labor to everyone, that just came out and just, basically dumped all over this. And, there was really nobody out advocating other than the campaign at the end. And I feel like the special interest groups were really damaging as well, because, to Greg's point, nobody really knew the details on what this was going to look like at the end of the day.
Well, and that's part of the problem, though, because, look, I did my best to support it because I thought it was an opportunity. It's amazing to me how many people Greg Keller felt like it was going to be for sure an overall tax increase, and not only a tax increase, but a dramatic tax increase. You know, the one thing that's also forgotten here, and you guys know this, is that the income tax in Missouri has been going down in the last couple of years. They passed something in 2022, right? So, you know, the other thing that I heard from people, and I was telling Ed this before the show, the number one thing outside of we didn't trust lawmakers. That was probably the biggest thing. We don't trust them moving forward. Was you should go after property taxes. To which I say, okay, that's fine. I know people hate property taxes and really hate personal property taxes, but none of the property taxes go to the state of Missouri. That's a local issue, right? So some of this is a misunderstanding of how the tax system works, and it was a bad campaign. But I think people are just confused, and when you have that, they vote no.
Yeah, I mean, on the property tax side of things, I mean, I have seen plans that will get rid of property taxes across the state of Missouri. If you think that getting rid of the Missouri state income tax was going to result in a little bit higher sales taxes, particularly on services,
Yeah, wait for that.
You are right. But if you want to get rid of property taxes across the state of Missouri and all of those municipalities, almost all of which 80% plus go towards funding local schools,
yeah.
You're going to have to increase the sales tax by the estimates I've seen, by between 17 and 20%.
And that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And what we were talking about with the income tax was, listen, we are not taxing services at all, number one. None. We are not taxing fees to accountancies, to law firms, to consultancies, to lobbyists, none of these. And all of those are disproportionately bought by members of the upper and upper middle class. So this was a way to, I don't want to cry over spilled milk. It is what it is. We need to find our way forward to lowering taxes more in Missouri. But this was a very good proposal if what you want to do is phase out both property taxes and the personal property tax. We've missed an opportunity. Missouri missed an opportunity to innovate. It is what it is. Now we got to move forward on lowering taxes. We're currently at 4.7%. We're going to go down to 4.5% probably as soon as next year. That is the floor for how low the state income tax can go right now. Per existing legislation in Jefferson City is 4.5%. We need to figure out how we get it down to 3.5%, 3%. 2.5%, so we don't continue to get left behind by our neighboring states.
So Ed Rohde, Greg Keller here on the Reardon Roundtable. You know, we've all been around a lot of these issues, candidates. You very rarely see margins that are this big for an issue, right? And it was historic. I think I retweeted something today. We haven't had something by this margin since I think it was like 1921 in Missouri. So what part of this goes on Governor Kehoe? Look, this was his, plan. He tried to push this. I think he should have sold it a lot earlier. Sounds like he's not going to give up. But so when you say you're not going to give up, this is crazy to me. There are already people out there saying, oh, he's trying to thwart the will of the people. If the will of the people is to have more taxes, well, then maybe we should go back in the other direction and raise the income tax, because seemingly people weren't worried about that. But how much of this goes on Governor Kehoe?
I think a lot of it's on the governor. I mean, honestly, this is a beatdown like I've never seen in my lifetime. And quite frankly, this was his top economic issue. And I think he looks really, really weak right now, quite frankly. I think he needs to come back, honestly, right away with some sort of proposal that, mirrors what the real intention of this was. And keep in mind, too, the ballot language that they ended up with was very different than what was proposed. I mean, the Western Court of Appeals sort of, rewrote the language, which was very unfavorable to the pro side. I think that had a really big impact on it, too. But getting back to the governor, I think he needs to stay on this, and he needs to come back with something quick, because I think he looks pretty weak right now.
Yeah, what do you do, Greg? And it's not only, the governor, but it's Republican leaders who led the charge on this. And you look what happened. You guys, this gets into the weeds a little bit, but Curtis Trent, who was the state senator that essentially his bill was the one that ended up being the bill, he gets taken out in the Springfield area by a candidate who uses Amendment 5 and his support of Amendment 5 against him.
Yeah, I think to Ed's point, I think we got to come back with something smart. I think we got to come back with something legislative that is incremental in nature. I said earlier we're on the way to being 4.5%. Okay, we're not going to get to 0% in the next 5 years. That would have been great. It would have put Missouri on a path to success versus some of the most competitive states in not just in the region and in the country. I think what Missourians said is, listen, we like tax cuts. You guys have been cutting, Republicans have been cutting taxes in the state for 15 years now. We like all that. What we want is a hard and fast plan. I think we need to go back to the legislature. I think Ed's instinct on this is exactly correct. Our people, Missourians, love tax cuts. They want to keep more tax cuts. They did not like this particular tax cut. But if you don't come back and try to come up with a plan for them to keep more of their own money, first of all, you're doing a disservice to them. And secondly, you're signaling that you're giving up on maybe the most important plank, one of the top 2 or 3 most important planks of the Republican Party in a deep red state, which is tax cuts.
Greg Keller, Ed Rohde with me on the Reardon Roundtable. Let's touch on Amendment 4 here. That goes down to, record historic defeat as well. Look, in the end, I voted against Amendment 4. It kind of, I've said this before, the whole issue of initiative petition changes makes my eyes glaze over. I don't think most people understand it. But then when you kind of get gimmicky and you say it's going to pass by, this much in each congressional district, that I think makes people confused and a little uneasy. I would be a fan of raising the margin, outside of 50 plus 1. But thoughts on Amendment 4, because that didn't go too well either, Ed.
Well, I actually thought, I'm in the vast minority, I thought Amendment 4 was actually a great idea, and I'll tell you why. I worked on the medical marijuana, or the marijuana campaign several years ago, and we just added 40 new pages to the Constitution. I think it's got to be tougher to change the Constitution than what we have right now.
Well,
now,
I don't disagree with that.
Well, was this the answer? Probably not, but I think it was at least a step in the right direction to get to sort of a pause so we can come back with something reasonable. I feel like 4/7 would be reasonable, but what they have now, in my opinion, is not working. It's too easy to change the Constitution, and I don't like that. I will also say, when you have a ballot issue and you're not spending any money and the other side's spending
there was
millions,
no campaign for it, right?
There's no hope for that.
So, Greg, do you go back to the well on that one? I mean, the legislature keeps loving to talk about it. The voters don't seem to really care.
Yeah, I mean, I would focus on tax reform. I do think that we are going to have something of a schizophrenic politics here in Missouri going forward, because this is, like I said earlier, a deep red Republican state. We will continue to elect Republicans at the statewide level for every constitutional and U.S. Senate office to a tune of 20% every single year. At the same time, the Democrats nationally, forget Democrats in Missouri, they know this already. Democrats nationally have figured out that they can run roughshod all over the state of Missouri. And with the defeat of Amendment 4, they know that hunting season is open. I think Missourians are going to be absolutely shocked by what they see, the crazy left-wing special interest group proposals that are put on the ballot the next couple election cycles because of the failure of Amendment 4. Was it a great campaign? No. Should it be harder than it currently is to change the founding document, the Constitution of the state of Missouri? Absolutely. I think Missourians, unfortunately, are in for a rude awakening here.
Hang in there. It's a Reardon Roundtable on a Friday. Ed Rohde, Greg Keller. We're coming back with more.
Accident reported on northbound 170 at Page. Watch for the right lane to be blocked through there. And we've got some volume southbound 270, mainly Ladue Road in pockets, and that goes down through Doherty Ferry. Northbound was slowing at Big Bend. Now westbound 70 is fine out of downtown. Little slow at the Blanchette Bridge and out at Wentzville. 64, it's just moderate volume at Clayton Skinker. Then you get a break, and it lines up again at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. But we've got a jam on the Illinois side, of course, on eastbound 64 approaching 159. But there's also road work, and it's causing a delay in both directions. 5570 approaching 111. So we've got a jam in both directions, and it's not a lot of fun over there either. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, let's guide you into an amazing car buying process, and that's Master Cars Inc. in Granite City. Master Cars Inc. is a used car dealership, new car caliber. The best example recently that I have to tell you exactly what they do is my producer emeritus, Dave Klein, who was looking for a Chevy Suburban and went to Alex and Gary at Master Cars. Those are very big, expensive vehicles. He wanted something with some miles on it. He's got a big family, and they found him one. One of the things I saw Dave about a week and a half ago, and one of the things he said was, at first they located a vehicle that seemingly was a good fit. It was a Suburban, but Alex, these guys are experts. They kind of backed off it because they didn't think that the vehicle was in as good a shape as they would be proud to sell it to somebody, and that's what you're going to get. They're going to really, really filter through. the car that you're interested in. They'll get it here to St. Louis. The buying process is very simple. Now, they also have a bunch of fun stuff on the lot. They do a lot of collector's cars and Corvettes. They have unique cars on the lot, but you're not limited to that, is my point, because you might not want a 66 Ford Mustang Coupe, which is beautiful, and it's on the lot right now, but they can find you the car that you are looking for. They're in Granite City. Master Cars Inc. at mastercarsinc.com. Hey, it's a Reardon Roundtable on a Friday. We are joined by Republican consultant Greg Keller, founder of Atlas Strategy Group, Democrat consultant Ed Rohde, also here with me in the studio this afternoon. We got all the fun stuff in the next hour with Sue's News, Paul Hall on entertainment, and we'll get Cusumano taking us into the weekend with sports. I already have my Joe and Jack Buck bobblehead. They delivered it to me today. It's awesome, Sue, and I'm going to the game tonight. So I'm very excited about it. All right, let's kind of break down. Ed, I'm going to start with you. You were one of the guys, and I know this is a little bit more personal. You can say as much as you're comfortable with, but you introduced me to Senator Brian Williams a few months ago. I was impressed with him. And, you know, I was told a year ago, this is going to be the guy that's the next county executive. I was told 6 months ago, this is the guy who is going to be the next county executive. I was told 3 months ago, this guy is going to be the next county executive. I'm not a math expert, but I don't think he's going to make it there, Ed. So what happened? Because, you know, and this is just funny, but not funny. Yesterday, I got a mailer in the mail for voting for Brian Williams, which, by the way, I did. I pulled the D ballot and I voted for him. I swear to God, Keller, I really did. But I got a mailer yesterday from his campaign, and I'm not the only one, I think, that got it a couple of days late. What the hell happened here?
Well, first off, I have to tip my hat to Jake Zimmerman and his campaign. They ran a better campaign and they won. So congratulations to Mr. Zimmerman. You know, this journey started last August when Brian announced, and we had a great rollout. Started raising money. Everything's going in the right direction. In December, Sam Page announced he wasn't going to run again, so Brian was pretty much the presumptive nominee. You know, Jake announces in January, and then Angela announces that she's running in the last hour while filing's open, and sort of the dynamics of that the whole campaign changed at that point.
Well, explain that. So for listeners that might not be dialed into that, Angela Walton Mosley, like, explain why that's important.
State senator from North County, African-American woman. You know, 40% of the vote was going to be coming from North County, right? And so instead of Brian taking a large number of that, it's going to get split up, you know, a certain way. We don't know how. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not going to make excuses. I mean, we just didn't do a good job of communicating to voters of who Brian Williams was. And there were two major events that we failed on. One of them was fatal. The first one is Jake's run countywide, so voters know who he is, okay? Voters don't know who Brian is outside of the Senate district. We need to get out early with mail and digital and TV and introduce him to the voters, okay? And at the same time, we also, after we did that, we needed to start sort of framing up the race and educating voters on Jake's job performance, okay? We didn't do either of those things, okay? So then here we get about a month, 3 weeks out, and Jake hits Brian with a really, really nasty negative TV ad and said he was MAGA and against, women's health rights. And it was pretty good ads, very strong. It
wasn't true.
It wasn't true, but as Greg knows from doing campaigns, you have to respond to that. Unfortunately, we didn't respond appropriately, and
he wanted to. Is it true? He wanted to keep the campaign positive.
He wanted to keep, and I respect that because he had a very good voting record, and he's a great guy, and people like him. But he wanted to make the campaign about a positive, with the issues positive. Unfortunately, after that, we were fighting the campaign on Jake's narrative and not ours because we never established it, and we didn't respond to that ad. And that's what sank the campaign. I had women that I know and that my wife knew that was coming up, saying, oh, we're voting for Jay because, Brian's anti-woman. And I'll tell you one other story where I knew we were in trouble. The night before, my wife is having dinner with a friend of hers, African-American woman from North County, paralegal, smart. And they were talking about the race. And she says, oh, I think I'm voting for Jake Zimmerman. And my wife says, why? Well, because Brian's anti-woman, anti-choice. And my wife's like, oh, my God, no, he's really not. And I was thinking to myself when she came back from dinner, if we're not having voters like that, we're done. And I knew the night before that it was over.
Greg, your thoughts on that race?
Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for Ed and for Brian, both of whom are friends. I was shocked the first time I heard. I thought from the very beginning, first of all, negative campaigning is done because
it works.
It works.
Yes.
And voters say that they hate negative campaigning, and yet nothing, and this is proven by political science over the course of eons, nothing moves voters. I don't care where you are on the political spectrum, more than negative ads. So that's when voters, as a political operative, when voters tell you that they don't like negative ads, you just need to tune them out and not listen to them, because it's not that they're lying. They respond to those ads and like
it
nothing
works.
else.
Yeah, it works.
And so that's number one. I would say, secondly, I thought Brian should have gone hard negative as early as possible. And the one thing that St. Louis Countyans knew about Jake Zimmerman going
raised
into
your taxes.
He doubled your property taxes. I mean, half of us have been in lawsuits against, Robert Greg Keller versus Jake Zimmerman assessor, whatever his title was. And I think I get it. Like, Brian had a lot going for him. He's an accomplished state legislator. He is right on the issues. The attacks against him were total bunk. I would have liked to have seen him. It wasn't until, I believe, 48 hours before that I got a text message that said, I'm running against Jake Zimmerman, who doubled your property taxes or something like that. And I'm just like pulling my hair out as a friend of Brian, saying to myself, oh my gosh, that's the only thing this campaign should have been.
And by the way,
about.
a lot of people already voted by the time you got that. That's another aspect of this, right? Because of people early voting.
100%. They should have talked about that and talked about that and talked about that. And if they had done so, I think they could have won this race.
Okay, so we're all very familiar with St. Louis County politics, and we know how these races have ended in the county executive race with Bill Corrigan and with Rick Stream. It's very difficult for me to believe, maybe impossible for me to believe, that Dennis Hancock can win St. Louis County-wide as a Republican. So, Greg, do you disagree with that? Is there any window here? I mean, these things have come close. It's been a while since they've been close, but does a Republican really have a shot here in St. Louis County?
I mean, I hate to be Debbie Downer here, but you're talking about a St. Louis County that Kamala Harris won 61-37. That was in a political environment in which Trump was probably, even in St. Louis County, much closer to a fave-unfave of even. He's probably, if I had to guess, at least 10, maybe 20 points underwater now here in Missouri. Or here in St. Louis County. So you've seen the political environment deteriorate by, I would guess, between 10 and 15 points versus when we just lost by, what was that, 61-37? That's 24 points. Nothing is impossible, but man, that is tough.
Well, I looked it up this afternoon before I came on, and the last time a Republican won countywide was 1986.
Was it really?
Yeah, it's been 40 years.
1986.
86. It's been that long, and you got to keep in mind too. There's going to be the abortion ballot issue on November, and Democrats are really going to turn out for that.
Yeah, the poly market's going to, I think, favor Jake there. But let's talk about Amendment 3 just a little bit, because that is going to have an impact on the November election. And most people don't know what it is yet, right? I mean, I would say most voters don't know, unless you're dialed into that particular issue or you worked on it. They don't know that there's another Amendment 3 coming, which is not as radical as the last Amendment 3. But, Greg, if you look at the Steve Butch Gina Mitten race and you kind of combine that with Brian Williams, I think women came out. I don't know if you guys have broken the numbers down here, but that is an issue that is going to drive people to the polls in November. We don't have as many big races, but will that have an effect even on Congresswoman Wagner? Is there any risk there at all because of that issue being on the ballot?
Congresswoman Wagner, just as an aside, is running against a communist Democrat political operative who's one of the least honest people I've seen in my entire 25 years in politics. Fred Wellman is a horrible human being, and I think she's going to beat him soundly. Back on the Amendment 3 thing, though, I think that just like we were saying with Brian needed to go a little bit harder negative early, I think the same thing is true of Amendment 3. We are just 2 years away from Democrats in Jefferson City, the entire party as a whole, lighting their hair on fire in support of child genital mutilation surgeries and puberty blockers for children as young as 12 years old. This is something that has become one of the most animating issues in their entire party. They will die on this hill. That's how dedicated the modern Democrat Party is to child genital mutilation. This particular amendment would make that illegal. It says that it will be illegal in the state of Missouri to do child genital mutilation surgeries on minors. If you make this campaign, if the pro-Amendment 3 people make this campaign about that issue, they will be fighting on offense and they have a fighter's chance.
Well, I have to say, first off, that if Ann Wagner doesn't win by double digits, I'd be like completely shocked, and I'd be willing to get a $100 bet going with somebody that she does win by double digits. So that's
I'm not taking that action, no, because I think
me
she
either.
should. I think she should for sure. But I mean, it's a weird cycle, and I just wonder because of Amendment 3 if it's going to have any impact on some of those races. We're going to get to our friend Hassan Piker and El Sayed up in Michigan, but. When it comes to those races, I mean, what else are we going to really be looking at, right? When it comes to November, there's not as much action here. This is going to be more about the general election, rest of the country. It's a Reardon Roundtable on a Friday. We're coming back with more.
On the roads, we've got an accident on westbound 270. It's just past 370, and it's causing a little bit of a delay up there if you're a North County driver, but eastbound is fine. Now, northbound 170, some moderate volume headed for Airport Road. Accident reported westbound 70 as you approach the 94 area. So just coming off the Blanchette Bridge. Now, 64, a slow go. It's mainly at Clayton Skinker. Southbound 270 jams. We had an accident reported near the Clayton Road overpass. Some slow-moving traffic there. And out west, it jams up Lake St. Louis Boulevard out through the 70 split. And other than that, well, of course, southbound 141 slows at 44. We're pretty busy, 44 at 270. And, of course, on the Illinois side, 5570, just all this road work. So slow 3rd Street through just a little west of 111, and westbound traffic is slow through there as well. Eastbound 64 slows approaching 159. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
More of the Roundtable coming up. Let's talk about Generator Supercenter of St. Louis because they are just, or maybe I should say you are just a phone call away or a visit from a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter, the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. High quality, great generators, and the team at Generator Supercenter can do all the certified maintenance and warranty work competitors can't or won't offer that service. So keep in mind there's a big advantage there. If you don't think you can afford this right now, well, they have low monthly payments available. You can finance this. At least call for a free estimate, 314-499-2020. We've had some blips in the power even this week with some storms. We've had power grid warnings of rolling blackouts. So, the grid is old. It's very, very old. We haven't put enough money into making sure it's stable. That's why this is such a smart move. Don't be that person that wishes that you would have called or gotten an estimate on a Generac home standby generator. 499-2020, Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com. 3:33. This portion of the show on a Friday is sponsored by our friends at Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing. Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm not very good at political predictions. I get them wrong a lot. But I did okay the other night because I predicted doom and gloom for amendments 4 and 5. Unfortunately, I thought that my friend Steve Butts was going to lose, and he did, guys. But then I thought Bill Eigel was going to win in St. Charles County, and that did not happen. So, Greg, I'll start with you. Look, I think, when we talk about this, and I mentioned this a couple of days ago, there were several political careers that might have been ended. Senator Brian Williams might be one of them. Cori Bush might be another, although I hope not, because I love her so much. But Bill Eigel is another casualty here, isn't he?
I think.
Hang on, I don't have the right mic on there. Go.
I think a couple surprises there. Number one, just the margin that Eigel lost by. Now, it was a three-way race, and Jason Law, who came in third, got something like 20%.
Right.
Bill Eigel only got like a third of the vote. I think it was like 35, 37%, something like that. I would have thought that there was more appetite for a candidate like him in today's modern Republican Party in a county like St. Charles than there turned out to be. I think he's in a very interesting place. I mean, Bill Eigel was really, even though he's lost 2 races now, he really was kind of in many ways the man meeting the moment. This guy was ahead of the MAGA curve. He was MAGA before MAGA even really hit the scene. He really believes this stuff. He's a tremendous personal speaker, has a lot of charisma. Took on Kehoe, came in a very respectable second, beat the pants off of Jay Ashcroft, who's the scion of maybe the most famous political family in Missouri history, the Ashcrofts.
But it was Jay Ashcroft. I mean,
bit of a doofus.
Yeah.
But still, the Ashcroft name that's worth 25 points on a ballot right there in a Republican primary without campaigning at all. And then Eigel comes in second, a very respectable second. Then he dips way down and decides to run not for Congress, which other people thought he was going to do, or a statewide office at some later date, decides he's going to run for St. Charles County Executive, and loses badly. He's the one who, when I look at those people, do I think Cori Bush is done? Do I think that other people's political careers were ended the other night? Yes. I'm not so sure about Bill Eigel just because he is a true believer. He really believes this stuff, and he actually is a very good political athlete.
Well, I have to say, I actually thought Ailman was going to win, and I'll tell you why. Bill Eigel has the sort of that MAGA base, right? He's just got this percentage of voters that I think he's going to get, and that's it. Jason Law, I don't know him, but from my observations, ran a pretty poor campaign, and I think he was going to be pulling votes from Ailman. I think Ailman actually has done a pretty good job overall in St. Louis County. But most importantly, I think you see it in St. Louis City and St. Louis County, and now you saw it in St. Charles. Republicans in St. Louis City and County actually pull Democratic ballots, right? Because if they want to say in local government, that's what they want to do. There was an active effort in St. Charles County to get Democrats to pull a Republican ballot because they wanted to have a say. And Steve Ailman's actually normal, quite frankly, and like a guy who's good for the region. I think Bill Eigel would have been a disaster for the region. So I think there were a lot of, I haven't seen the numbers yet, but I think there were a lot of Democrats that came over and voted for
Kurt Barr did indicate
Ailman.
that there was an indication that did happen, maybe enough to make a difference. So that's, I think an on-spot observation. We'll see what happens. My thing with Bill is I know he likes to be an obstructionist and he gives people hell and all that, but what has he actually gotten done, right? And by the way, I don't think, Greg, did that guy really want to be an executive in St. Charles County? We actually have to work and you have to do these things. I don't think, member of Congress seems a little bit more, not that you don't work when you're a member of Congress, but that seems more up his alley.
Yes, I think the bill would be a natural to be in Congress. You look at someone like Bob Onder. I mean, I think that Bill is cut from his cloth. Maybe Bob Onder is cut from Bill's cloth. I don't know. I will say that the Eigel campaign, I mean, they did seize on some local issues that had some real resonance within the conservative base. Number one, data centers. Now, whatever you guys think of data centers, there is a huge amount of bipartisan skepticism about data centers. Eigel got on that, and he got on that early. He cast all kinds of aspersions about what Ailman had or had not done on data centers. I don't know if it was true or not, but he was out there early on that. The other one, too, is they are very concerned inside St. Charles County about this proliferation of apartments. They think this should be a residential and people who own their property community, and they have seen an explosion in people who are renting and people who are buying apartments and these huge apartment complexes coming in. He seized on that as well, too. So I don't know if he really had a passion for that or not, but I think it plays into my central thesis here, which is that he found the issues to run on, albeit only to the tune of 40%, but he did find some pretty good issues to run on that were both current and in line with his own political philosophy.
All right, that's Greg Keller. Ed Rohde is here. It's a Reardon Roundtable. Let's go to Michigan here.
Look, we are a big tent party, and being a big tent party is a strength, not a weakness.
If you are a DSA people, run your under own banner.
John Fetterman's on our side these days, Greg. I don't know why he just doesn't make it official, right? But this may be the gift that the Republicans needed in Michigan with Haley Stevens going down. It was closer than the polling indicated, but Abdul al-Sayed, he doesn't seem to really be interested in distancing himself from Hassan Piker. I mean, they're hand in hand. That's not going to end up working very well for them in Michigan, especially because he underperformed on Tuesday night. Now, look, I don't take anything for granted, right? Because it's a weird cycle. Young people seem to be motivated and they love communism. But thoughts on his victory, and will he have a chance against Mike Rogers?
It was much closer, Mark, to your point, than people thought it was going to be. I think most of the polling had him winning this thing by 5, if not 10
points. Right, yeah.
He ended up winning by just north of 1 point, I believe.
15,000 votes, I think.
Very, very close. So he definitely underperformed. I would be a lot more bullish on El-Sayed's chances if he had signaled, as you said, Mark, that he was going to do not an apology tour, but a kumbaya, let's come together tour. He has sent the exact opposite signal since he lost, said he is not going to distance himself from the most rank anti-Semites in their entire party. Mike Rogers is out with a new commercial today of him and his wife sitting there talking to the camera, talking about, listen, I want to keep your cost of living low. Let's work together on that. I want to make sure that you can afford to send your kids to college. Let's work on that. Just good kitchen table issues. He's a normal guy. His wife was in the shot. She looks perfectly normal and lovely. I think really smart ad. I think Michigan Republicans have a chance to steal a march on the Democrats.
Hassan Piker, Ed Rohde, told all of Haley Stevens' voters that they were Islamophobic. That's why they voted against his candidate, right? And he's out there, the guy who thinks that we deserved 9/11. I mean, he says horrific things. There are people on the right that get criticized that aren't even close to the disgusting, being that this guy is. And El-Sayed just wants to camp around with him. By the way, did you see the thing about Mackinac Island today? I think I pulled that. So we have open mic audio of El-Sayed. Listen to this. He hates Mackinac. Everybody loves Mackinac Island. Not him. Listen.
I hate Mackinac so much. It's funny because, if we win, this is going to be the, summer home. I'm just going to be every time I've ever come here, I've hated it. Why am I here?
I mean, that's interesting. And then there's all this.
For too long, our foreign policy has been handed to us by the likes of the State of Israel and AIPAC, who has made sure that Democrats and Republicans are doing their bidding.
We need to treat Israel the way we would treat any other country who behaved the way that Israel is behaving. I don't want to fund a foreign military that does genocide, apartheid, or has taken us to a war we don't need to fight.
You said the Israeli government is evil. Do you think they're just as evil as Hamas?
Yes, killing tens of thousands of people makes you pretty damn evil.
Now, look, there's a big Arab population, Muslim population up there. That's what he kind of drew from here in this election. Will it work in the general?
No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't think so.
I mean, I'm embarrassed when I hear this. And when they say, oh, we're one big tent. No, you're not. They don't want guys like me. Middle-aged, white, straight, small business guy. They have no interest in having guys like me. I feel like I'm a man without a home. I'm embarrassed.
Come on over, Ed.
I'm embarrassed when they talk like that. And quite frankly, the Democrats are going to lose that seat in November. And I'll bet that one, too.
Well, it would be hard for me to believe that when all is said and done and the Oppo book comes out completely, and look, that ad that's an ad with Mackinac Island. Just show the beauty of Mackinac Island and then just play his audio over it, and boom, there's a 30-second ad, right?
By the way, if you hate Mackinac Island, you hate everything. Mackinac Island is unbelievable.
100%.
It's a Reardon Roundtable on a Friday. We got one more segment to go.
Accident westbound 270 past 367. And this thing has been blocking the two left lanes. Traffic, of course, is jammed behind it. Accident southbound 270 just south of 6440. That one is in the left lane. And now we have a stall westbound 70. It's past 5th Street. That's what's causing the delay out there. It was on the right-hand side. Now, other than that, it's the usual Friday volume, and that means a jam out at Lake St. Louis Boulevard through the 70 split. And 55, some slow going south of Imperial in one of the construction zones there. On the Illinois side, 64, slow between 157 and 159, and volume on 5570 in both directions between really 111 and 255. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. This report is brought to you by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis, and they have a home refresh rebate going on. Call now and get $500 back on a qualifying garage door with a qualifying purchase. Must be made by September 30th. Visit overheaddoor.com to learn more and schedule a free estimate. I'm Sue Thomas, traffic. That's 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, I have a chance for you to win right now. If you're caller number 6 on our contest line, John's going to take your call. Ethan is out this week. 314-241-9797. The show is 1 week from Sunday, courtesy of Live Nation.
In my view, the objective here should be regime collapse. This is a regime led by theocratic lunatics who hate us, who chant death to America, who over and over and over again have demonstrated that they are willing to kill Americans, and they have killed Americans over and over and over again. And so what I've urged from the beginning of this conflict is for us to arm the Iranian protesters. Look, President Trump is not going to send American boots on the ground. We should not have American soldiers in harm's way in Iran.
But Ted Cruz is talking about having, the Iranian people being more armed courtesy of the United States. Look, this thing has gotten way past the timeline. Greg Keller, I'll start with you here. The Trump administration, the president himself has exerted a lot of patience here. But we keep hearing the same things over and over. We're going to hit them hard. We're going to demolish them. And then they keep somehow managing to fire back. So with the midterms just a few months away, gas prices not going down significantly. The stock market's going great, by the way. I don't know if we can talk about that. That's really good. But on the Iran front, how damaging could this potentially be for Republicans in the midterm, and why can't we finish the job?
Yeah, I think you need to remember a couple of things. Number one, as the great Thomas Sowell has always said, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. And the decision here is, do you want a nuclear-armed Iran, and what that would mean for gas and oil prices worldwide for the continuation of the rest of our lives? So if you don't think that that's a good thing, then you have to do something about the regime. The goals all along have been twofold. Number one, degrade, get rid of their ability to make nuclear weapons. Then ancillary goal number 2, because of what they've done, is keep the Strait of Hormuz open. I do think we have all but eliminated their nuclear capability. The question now is, what do we need to do to go ahead and keep the Strait of Hormuz open? I'm a little bit of a neocon on this issue. I'm generally only happy when we're bombing Middle Eastern countries who hate us. So I could continue like this for a long time. I know a lot of Americans are running out of patience on this kind of thing. Is it great for the midterms, Mark? No, it certainly isn't. I will remind folks, price of gas is under $4 per gallon. It was over $5 per gallon under Biden. The president does deserve some credit for that. However, there is a recency bias here, and it's never low enough. So it's not easy.
Okay, but still, let me flip the script here just a little bit, because if I'm sitting here right now and Kamala Harris promised that she was not going to do forever wars and she's going to lower gas prices in the economy, I'd probably be ripping her, and we'd probably be ripping into her pretty good here. So I know that all this is not on Trump, but look, I don't see the gas prices going down to a comfortable level before the midterms, and if we're still talking about how this war is going to end, that's not going to be good for anyone. So I think you got to finish the job. If Ted Cruz's idea is the best idea, let's do it and get on with it.
But here's what I understand, and I was on the roundtable, a couple weeks ago, and I asked the same question. What's the end game here? I mean, nobody seems to understand what the end game is, and I feel like this is one of the most incompetent run operations that I've seen in my lifetime. And if Biden would have been doing this, I think you guys would have been all over him, and rightfully so. We were told last summer, we just obliterated their uranium program. Okay, well, did we obliterate it or did we not obliterate it? To the question about gas prices, yeah, I think affordability is still a problem right now. Inflation's still running hot. Gas is high. People are mad. And, I think that's going to skew towards the Democrats in November. I think the one thing that you guys have going for you is all the DSA weirdos that keep getting elected.
I know. Thank you for that.
It gives you
really,
a lot
that
of
is
material
helpful
to work with.
Absolutely.
If we make it about affordability, the Democrats are going to win. If it's about the cultural issues, the Republicans are going to do okay.
But Greg, we have to kind of focus on the economic issues, but the numbers are not necessarily in the Republicans' favor right now. Now, look, there are a lot of good things happening in the economy. And by the way, I'm very happy with a lot of the accomplishments from this administration. A lot of the doom and gloom with the tariffs and stuff never manifested itself, right? Honest to God, the only issue I have with this administration right now is this stupid war. It's the only thing that's just nagging on me and worrying me about the consequences moving forward, both domestically and globally.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that giving Iran a nuclear weapon and everything that portends, the same way that we've done, or was done rather, with the North Koreans over on the Korean Peninsula, is an unsustainable situation given the fact that they sit in the region with the largest oil reserves in the entire world, which powers the entire world. So I don't think having a nuclear-capable Iran was something that anyone could really sustain. So if you're going to do that and you're going to take the long-term view, I think we're doing the right thing. Can we nibble around the edges and talk about some of the tactics and things that they have done wrong? Absolutely. That's always warranted. That's always the case. But it's better than the situation of Iran being able to dictate in perpetuity to the entire world exactly who is going to pay what price for oil for the next 50 years.
Yeah, well, I think some people just want finality there, right? In a path to that, and it just keeps stretching out.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't understand how we get to the end game. I don't know what that looks like. That's what kind of scares me, is I feel like we're stuck with nowhere to go, and I kind of feel like the Iranians are just going to outweigh us, quite frankly.
Well, that's what they're going to do. They're going to try to do that for sure. Ed Rohde and Greg Keller are here. Let's just kind of close on a sports note with the Cardinals being back in town for a weekend series with the lowly Rockies. That's always problematic. You play down to the level of your competition. But this is going to be fun tonight. It is a Jack Buck and Joe Buck bobblehead night. I am not a bobblehead guy, but I love this one. I'm actually very spoiled. I have mine already. I'll shoot a picture out of it. But look, the fans, we had a great first half of the season. We saw some amazing offense. Really, I think some great starting pitching. And we made some decisions, I think, that were appropriate at the trade deadline. The Brewers fans that I talked to, they think they got fleeced on this deal. I don't think they really did. Dustin May had a pretty good outing, and JoJo, I think, could be strong for them. But look, we're rebuilding. The crowds hopefully will come to the ballpark in the next couple of months. They have good promotions like tonight, but give this team a chance to show us what they can do in the future, and that's where we're at, right?
I think so. It's a fun team to watch. I think they're going in the right direction. There's no pressure. we give them a couple years to rebuild, and we just sort of enjoy it while it's going on.
I mean, you look at the Brewers right now, and this has got to be their year. I mean, they're so frustrated still from 1982 because, I worked up there for 9.5 years, and I still have a lot of friends. But, I mean, if this isn't their year, I don't know what will be. I think they might have the best record in baseball right now. The Dodgers and the Brewers keep flipping back and forth.
Be great to see them beat the Dodgers. I will say this, and based on a lot of the baseball analysis I've been reading recently, I have pretty high hopes over the medium to long term for this Chaim Bloom thing. Whether it was how he did in the draft, people are raving about what he did in the draft. People are raving about the deal that you just talked about at the trade deadline. What they're saying, particularly with regards to the draft, is that Mozeliak and his team was really good about finding guys who would be in the major leagues for a long time and be workmanlike players. But he never swung for the fences, no pun intended. Chaim Bloom is willing to swing for the fences. He is willing to go out and get guys who are maybe a little bit further down, who show tremendous upside talent, and get some real stars in here. I think it's a completely different shift in mindset in the front office, and I think it portends good things for the future. I'm a little bullish on the long term.
Yeah, no, I am too. And, the only problem I have right now is just the hitting is sort of evaporated, and Jordan's not, the power numbers there are a little bit of a concern. But if they can still kind of compete here and maybe play a little spoiler with the Cubs, that might be my favorite thing rooting for going forward, right?
I have a conspiracy theory on the home run derby. People who do well in the home run derby see a second half swoon.
Well, it's not a theory. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's real.
I think going way deep, I think that takes a tremendous amount of their energy, and more often than not, you see the guys who win the home run derby, particularly if it goes long, you see them go into a slump because I think they're, for a period of time, physically exhausted. I think he won't admit it, but I think that's where Jordan Walker is.
It might be just a jinx, but there was even a story today in the Wall Street Journal about Cal Raleigh from Seattle. He has he hit 60 home runs last year, right? He can't hit a home run. You got Vlad Guerrero in Toronto. He's not hit a home run in his home stadium, and that guy's a 30-plus home run dude every year. So weird things happening out there, but hopefully everyone will have fun this weekend. Greg Keller, great to see you. Thank you for sending me the winnings from the Amendment 5 issue so quickly.
I hate you.
It wasn't spent yet, but it will be. Ed Rohde, great to see you guys. I appreciate it. We have 4 o'clock hour. Sue standing by with a Friday edition of Sue's News.
We've got an accident up north, and it's westbound 270 at 367. 2 left lanes are blocked, and traffic is stacked up behind it. Now, we also have some volume there. There was a stall westbound 70 past 5th Street, and it's creating a delay out there. By the way, that was on the right-hand side. And southbound 270, an accident just south of 40. That one was in the left lane and some slow-moving traffic there. Out west, 70 and 64 slowing at their merge. 44, some moderate volume on either side of 141 and just past Highway 100. On the Illinois side, 5570 slowing in both directions near 111. And eastbound 64 slows just between 157 and 159, that due to road work. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Taking the fight to the Supreme Court. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. President Trump fires back saying he will appeal today's federal appeals court ruling that he cannot build a White House ballroom without congressional approval.
A defeat for the president at the U.S. Court of Appeals in D.C. A 2-1 ruling orders construction on a $400 million, 90,000-square-foot ballroom to stop. President Trump says the ballroom has long been sought by presidents, and the project has expanded to include new secure facilities at the White House, including a drone port and other defensive systems. The ruling does not take effect for at least 2 weeks to give the administration time to appeal. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Ukraine's President Zelensky is expressing thanks to the U.S. Senate for passing a tough Russian sanctions bill today. That bill, named for the late Senator Lindsey Graham, who championed the measure for more than a year before his death. And it would strengthen support for Ukraine and penalize countries that continue to buy Russian oil, gas, and other exports. President Trump may be cheering another action in the Senate today. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana cleared up how he will vote on Trump's pick to be Attorney General Todd Blanche.
This is not a referendum on President Trump. It is a decision regarding Mr. Blanche in very specific circumstances. All considered, I will vote for Mr. Blanche.
Two other Republicans, Senator Susan Collins and Senator Lisa Murkowski, said they won't vote for Blanche. One more Republican no would sink the confirmation. And Chicago authorities say more than 50 bodies were found yesterday improperly stored and decomposing at a funeral home run by a couple who previously operated a crematorium that was shut down for mishandling remains. No arrests have been announced. Police say detectives are investigating. America's listening to Fox News.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil. One simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Well, I'm trying to multitask here because I want to shoot out a little picture here on the Twitter X of the Jack Buck bobblehead for tonight at Busch Stadium. I'm very excited about this because I already have mine. Fred, I think you had something to do with that. So I'm excited.
All I did was ask Joe Strom.
Well, that was very nice of him, and I think it's going to be a great, great game tonight. I love the fact, I told you I'm not a bobblehead guy, but I do like the fact that this one's the broadcasters. Although, you tell me, does that look like Joe Buck? You guys, do you see? It's. I don't know that I'd ever want to really see
is no.
me as a bobblehead.
But they never really look like.
I like the pose, though. It's a nice pose
that's
with his
true.
hand,
The double is
with
cool.
Joe's hand on his dad's
He's
back.
got his arm, and it
that's
says
nice.
Jack Buck and Joe Buck, and it is really nice looking. So I know that's going to be a popular item. Look, I went a couple weeks ago on a Saturday game. That's when Jennings was in town, and they had. I'm just not a big giveaway guy. I give my giveaways to other people, to kids, and most of that's because I'm an elitist and stuff like that too. But the jersey they gave away was like seemingly really nice that night. You were there that night, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. When I got there, they were gone.
They were
already,
gone.
So I didn't get one. It was the
Fred.
powder blue.
I would have sold you mine.
Cardinals jersey.
That's how you give stuff away, is it?
No, was selling it. Well, you candidly, you want to know the truth about that? I give stuff away, but we have, and we used to do this. We used to have Camo X Day at the ballpark. I think they still do, but it was a themed ticket, and there would be an item that would go along with it, right? And Fred, what was it? One year we had like a very unique hat, wasn't it? Like it was almost like a top hat. Do you remember that at all?
A top hat?
No.
We've had some. The point of the story is I don't remember if it was that.
Wait, the Cardinals?
Yeah,
gave
it was
away
like a
top
red.
hat?
Well, but yes,
Huh.
it was like a red Cardinals top hat. It was unique. I may be imagining this, but the point of the story is that my wife, a couple of times, like people would say, "Hey, do you want that?" And then we would sell it on the spot at Busch Stadium. You could probably do that
Wow.
tonight if people don't
yeah.
have them. I'm not encouraging people to do it. I'm just saying that there's such demand for people. What you see on nights like this is you'll see people going and grabbing their bobbleheads and then taking them back to the car and stuff like that. I don't know how
Wow.
that works once you're in the stadium, but look, I'm just looking forward to some baseball and to have a little fun. We're taking my daughter and our neighbor who's a softball player at Rockwood Summit tonight. Are you going at all this weekend?
No, I'm not.
Okay. The weather doesn't look too bad either. But I guess I wanted to blast that picture out on the Twitter X. I'll have to do it during the next break. Played a little pickleball this morning. I was telling Fred about this. So there was one guy, Sue, like this, that I had not met before. And, this is like what they call open play at Forest Park. So you register on the app and you just kind of show up. And
Yeah, I've done it.
What you find out is, and I've done this for like a month now, this is maybe my fourth Friday, and I play on Fridays and Sundays, is there's the same people for the most part that show up. But this kid today, I hadn't known, and, we're starting to get to know each other, and his name was Daniel. And we were sitting out a game just kind of waiting for other people to finish. And, I said, what do you do? He goes, I'm a reporter. Well, candidly, you don't hear that very often. Like, when you meet people, there's very few people that say, I'm a reporter. I'm like, oh, who do you work for? He goes, Post-Dispatch. I said, well, we're colleagues. We are colleagues now, Daniel. Not quite yet, but, we have a little sale that's going on here. I don't think I'm supposed to talk about that. But I said, what do you do there? He goes, cover the Cardinals. And his name is Daniel Guerrero. And I knew his name. I just, didn't make the connection. But I had to tell him, I didn't tell him this at the time, but afterwards I looked him up and I shot him an email. Super nice kid. Really, really nice. We talked a little bit about the Cardinals and everything. But I had to warn him to not bring my name up in the sports office at the Post-Dispatch because I don't think the reaction would be very positive over there. My friends like Ben Hockman. Can't wait to give him a hug if we're working in the same building. So I don't know how that is going to turn out. But here's the other thing, and I'm just going to be honest with you here, and this makes me uncomfortable, and I don't know what to do about it, is people, now people get to know you just a little bit, and they ask you questions. So, like, this guy this morning asked me, Mark, are you retired? I should have just said, yeah. I'm a multi-billionaire, and I'm just kind of, I was in the tech industry. Have you ever heard of NVIDIA? That was one of my inventions. But no, I just kind of say, well, I work on the radio. That's how I usually start it when people, ask me. I work on the radio. Oh, what do you do? Well, I worked on KMOX for, 16 years, and now I'm on 97.1. So some people are familiar, some people aren't, and then, you get the political stares after that. So I guess maybe I'm worrying about something that's not going to manifest itself, but you can kind of feel the aura change sometimes when people know, who I am and what I do. And it's just part of the gig. I've dealt with it my entire life. But it's really sad. I was talking to Ed Rohde about this before the show because think about that. Now, I'm not going to instinctively, like you could put a pretty rabidly left-wing person in front of me, and if we have some common ground on sports, we have some common ground on music or entertainment or anything like that, I can be friends with that person. Most of my friends are probably left-wing, people, lefties, Democrats, not lunatics, right? Not Hassan Piker. That's a different category. But people make these judgment calls on us. When I say us, conservatives or Republicans, and I think a lot of it is TDS related, right? I think that's certainly you get associated with Trump. But the story that always comes to mind, I've told this before, and I still can't believe it happened, is I was at the Haven one time, Sue. I've told you this story. And my friend, my friend Mike Fitzgerald introduces me to his boss. We're sitting there having dinner. She comes over. Hey, these are my friends, Mark and Becky Reardon. She looks at me, and she walked away, and she walked back to her table, not saying anything. I had something very similar. I had something very similar happen with some folks in Wisconsin at the time because I was, conservative talk show host up in Milwaukee as well. I can't even imagine. I can be pretty rude, by the way. I think people know that. I can't imagine someone introducing me to someone and then just completely
Well,
turning
of
around
course
and
not.
walking away.
Yes, that is appalling.
It is appalling.
Yes.
But so now I'm getting a little nervous because I just
Don't
want to play
borrow
pickleball.
trouble. I know.
But I just want to play pickleball. I don't want
I know.
to have anyone making judgments on my politics, but I feel like that's like in the process of happening.
I know.
You know who didn't care about that earlier this week?
Who's that?
The 7-year-old you played against.
Well,
That's true,
it was a
Fred.
10-year-old.
10-year-old.
10-year-old. Yeah, that
Yeah,
kid,
that's
man, I
true.
played that kid with that kid on Sunday, and he was really good, and his brother was 14. That's what's kind of interesting. You see, and I've said this about pickleball, you see these people, and then you size them up a little bit, and then you're wrong about that.
Yep.
Hey, you know, Mark, I wanted to tell you, you know what I look forward to every day? I look forward to seeing your Facebook post that shows how Smokey the cat is getting along with all the
that's
other
nice.
animals. I mean,
That's nice.
I really do look forward to the daily update of what's going on in your house.
So I do stories, right? So I do Instagram stories, and then it goes to Facebook stories. So I don't make as many posts. But yeah, Sue, this is unbelievable. I don't have a picture of this. So typically I put Oreo. He's a free-roaming bunny, Oreo is,
Yes.
right? So he does not poop and pee around my house. That's not allowed. Has he done that? Yes, but he has litter boxes, and he goes in the litter box. He's pretty much 98% of the time. I mean, there might be a couple of pellets, like I call him pellet gun if he misses a couple of times, but it really doesn't happen very often. But I put him in his condo downstairs at night because it's a big hutch, and he's got his food in there and his hay and everything. So last night was a night that I didn't manage to get him in the hutch, and Becky woke up this morning and wasn't quite sure where Smokey was. Smokey the kitten was literally snuggled up asleep next to Oreo, and they were cuddling next to one another.
Adorable.
And then last night, I have video. I was showing Fred this video. I have video of bunnies like to chew on cardboard, right? It's kind of part of their thing. And they also like to chew on other things. That's why you give them cardboard. So, like, if there's a paper towel roll or something like that, that will go in his hutch or wherever. He'll just start chewing on it. So there was a package that was delivered yesterday, and Oreo was last night munching on the cardboard. And I think he literally taught Smokey how to eat cardboard because he was eating. I'll show you the video. It's unbelievable.
Oh.
He was eating cardboard, and then like Oreo kind of made a lurch toward the kitten, and that was interesting because he's got teeth. Like if the kitten may get him with his nails or something like that, Oreo's not gonna have any of that. He'll nip him if he has to. But they're getting along famously.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. But I'm glad that you like the stories because I should probably post to Oreo Smorio the bunny. That is his Instagram page, but I do not have that being as very active as I used to. All right, we got Sue's News coming up. There was one story. I don't know if I can do this right now or not, but I'll try just to kind of give a little bit of weirdness to this segment. This was in the LA Times a couple of days ago, and reselling sneakers, believe it or not, has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. And some of the things that people are looking for, they sell like 3 to 4 times their retail value on the secondhand market. So we have a federal case in L.A. where you have people that are charged with stealing $2 million in Nike products between 2021 and 2024. And what they say is there was this guy by the name of Roy Lee Harvey. He gets into a Lyft in Phoenix. He's heading across town. He starts to chat with his driver. And police said that Harvey told the man about his work buying high-end Nike sneakers from shoe companies and reselling them for a healthy profit. And the Lyft driver's like, hey, that sounds like a good business opportunity. So they exchange numbers. They meet in an apartment. And according to investigators, Harvey shows him a room that is just strewn with different pairs of Nikes and cardboard boxes. And you have some of those that were like limited run shoes. Those are the ones that sell 3 or 4 times market value. You have social media influencers out there that really hype some of those. So that draws millions of views. Like they do an unboxing or something like that. But I guess this was such a big deal. And the collection was so vast that the Lyft driver, according to a search warrant, said after leaving his apartment, found out that this dude had like felony charges in California for running something like this. So he kind of backs off, and then there's more indictments that came in, and they charge him. I think this guy's actually going to testify against him, that he has been charged and other major shoe resellers in LA, Chicago, and Indiana with paying Nike employees to help steal those hard-to-find styles.
There's the answer. I was like, where's the crime?
There
okay,
it is.
They're stealing it.
The inside job.
There was a stall westbound 70 near 5th Street, and it's left us with a slow go out there. We, on 70, now have a jam. There was an accident reported before Z, and that has caused a delay behind it. It's just past Wentzville Parkway. Now, westbound 64 It's just mainly Hampton out through Clayton Skinker. Then you get a break, and it really slows again at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Eastbound traffic slowing at 270 and at Big Bend. Southbound 270 still slow at 40. We had an accident just south of there. And eastbound 255 is lined up. There's an accident just at the approach to the JB Bridge. So expect some slow going there. And then on the Illinois side, 5570, slowing in both directions at 111 due to road work. Westbound 64 slowing at 70, and eastbound 64 slow approaching 159. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, I think we all kind of eat some things that aren't great for us from time to time. I'm a big believer in moderation. I kind of watch what I eat, but I also know I have nutritional gaps. And as you get older, I think those gaps become maybe wider. This is why I recommend that you take Neovite multivitamins. They're great, formulated by a physician. It was Dr. Ken Ribicki when he was getting into his 50s. He invented this formula, and it's really gone a long way from the original formula, Neovite multivitamin proprietary blend, into men's 50+, women's 50+. A few years ago, they introduced the Neovite omega-3 fish oil tablets, and they don't taste fishy at all. They have a citrus taste. So if you are interested in filling your nutritional gaps, the best way to do it is to go to neovite.com, sign up for the email newsletter and a subscription. You can also buy in bulk on that website. You can, as I often say, be stubborn and buy them in stores. They have a store locator up on that website. But if you subscribe, you save 10%. You can pause or cancel at any time. Get started today at neovite.com. I'll tell you what, the box office numbers from Spider-Man are crazy, and Chris Nolan's The Odyssey went over the $1 billion mark today. Paul Hall's going to fill us in on a lot of that stuff, make some recommendations as we get into the 4:30 segment. Cusumano a little later in the hour. But let's do this here, as I don't press the right button like I always do. Let's try it again. Take two.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Happy National Raspberries and Cream Day. That sounds good to me.
It does.
Really good.
I've discovered that my cough button doesn't work. I have discovered that peach Melba is really just like a peach with some raspberry in it. You know, if you were to go to like a Fritz's or something like that, that's what it is. And it's delicious. So write that down, because you go, wait, peach Melba. This looks like if you're eating it, because Mark got that stuff from Fritz's, and I took peach Melba, and I thought, ooh, that's good. I don't have a clue what Melba means, but I'm like, I think this is a raspberry, and that's what it turned out to be.
Yeah.
So it's delicious.
It's a great combination, right?
Fred, did you take your, oh, you got to follow him to the freezer. That's how you do it.
Yeah, Fred, you would have had. I was offering up Fritz's because it was there in the freezer. I wanted to make sure that I remembered it last night. You missed out on your opportunity.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that, Fred.
I know.
There are more, by the way, than 200 species of raspberries. Now, I like a black raspberry. Have you ever had that? A yellow?
Okay, wait. Hold on. Slow down there.
Yep.
Isn't that called a blackberry?
No, that's a separate thing.
Oh, really?
Yes, you could. There are blackberries, but that's not the same as a black
I never knew that.
raspberry.
Did you know that?
I think I've had blackberries then.
Okay.
I thought they were
okay.
the same.
Nope. Blackberries are bigger, but black raspberries are just like raspberries, only that's right, black.
But I don't think I've
and
ever
yellow.
even seen those at a store before.
Oh yeah. Well, they don't really sell them. I've picked them at one of those pick your own places out west.
Okay.
Oh, they're delicious. But I didn't realize there were 200 species. It's also National Water Balloon Day, National Sea Serpent Day, because we need that, and National Lighthouse Day, and finally something that actually matters, National Purple Heart Day. And it was on this day in history in 1782 when George Washington created the Order of the Purple Heart, which is exclusively given to servicemen wounded in combat. It is the oldest military decoration still in use and the first award made available to the common soldier.
You know, I see a lot of Purple Heart license plate tags.
Yes.
That's so nice to see.
Is that, in other words, do I have to have a Purple Heart to get one, or am I just supporting it and giving money to get that plate? Do you know?
I think it means you have a Purple Heart.
Wow, that's
how
really
I
cool.
interpret it.
That's really cool. And on this day in history, 56 years ago, a little music.
Oh,
because
you sure?
Yeah, it was 1970.
But are you sure is what I'm saying.
Oh, no.
Well, no, wait. It's up at the top. Here's
Okay.
here's what I'm going to tell you right
Okay.
now. It's not alphabetized. That's my issue.
Oh,
So
I
that was
see.
on me. Okay.
All
So,
right.
but you got to tell me which song it is here.
Well,
Stevie?
it's Stevie.
All right, here we go. There's literally one that is labeled nude dining. So
Yeah, that's coming up.
Okay, I look forward to that
Little
one in
preview.
particular. Yes.
Yeah.
Great song. Okay, I was searching for the song, so I don't even know the significance of it here.
Okay,
What did
it
you
was
say?
56 years ago today in 1970 is when Stevie released this album with this song on it. This is the title track. Love it.
Fair amount of covers of that song. Was that his
yeah,
song, by the way?
Peter Frampton did a good.
I don't know. I don't think it was. I think it's older than 1970.
I think so too.
He also did a cover of "We Can Work It Out."
Oh, by the way,
on there.
his cover of "We Can Work It Out" is outstanding. It's really, really good. I heard it. John Mayer played it on his station like 2 months ago, and I put it on a playlist because I had not.
Oh, I love
if I
that.
had heard it before, I had forgotten it, and it's excellent.
I love that. And then, okay, you guys, I had not heard this story. And there's a little bit of music just for a bed. It's the Mark Cohn. 21 years ago today, in 2005, Mark Cohn, who's singing this song, was shot in the head. Did you know this?
No.
I don't know if I did.
I didn't. He was shot in the head by a guy trying to carjack his van in downtown Denver. Mark did not pass away. Eventually, he made a full recovery. But I had not known that story. And he's fine today. But, yeah, this is Mark Cohn. He was married to Elizabeth Vargas, who was an
Was he
anchor.
really?
Yes, for
I went to J school with her.
What?
Oh yeah, she
You're
was
kidding.
Well, she dated a very good friend of mine at Mizzou. His name was Harvey Bennett. So I hung with Elizabeth back in the college days a little bit.
Harvey Bennett. I knew Harvey Bennett.
You knew Harvey.
I did.
Harvey was a stud
Yeah.
J school. I never knew what happened to him, but yeah, he was
You
dating
guys
Elizabeth.
look him up. What happened to him?
I don't know.
Wait, Fred knows
No,
something.
I don't
Oh.
know, but I want to find out, was he shot before or after this song?
After.
Oh, well after.
Well
yeah,
after?
yeah. That song is pretty.
It's a great song, though.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, it is.
It's just kind of nice to hear it.
I did not know that the Elizabeth Vargas connection.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
They have
Really.
2 sons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I learned something
yeah.
there.
She was in rehab. She had an alcohol issue. I don't know why I couldn't say alcohol. She had an alcohol issue, And that finally got cleaned up. And I think that was 2014, but it took her 3 times, and he divorced her after that.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
I didn't
It's
know
been
that.
rough.
Yeah, that's
So-
too bad.
All right, August has begun, meaning, of course, that the school season is just around the corner. When is it, Mark?
Well, look, my daughter starts the week. It's I'm going to put this in terms of after the BMW Championship, so it's the 24th
Okay.
of August. It's
All
all
right.
it's pre BMW Championship and post BMW now for me. That's the timeline. It's the only thing I'm considering. I'm just telling you.
A new survey. I called my brother, by the way, and said, "Do you want to go to this?" And he has some. He's like, "Oh," but he can't go.
Yeah.
A new survey of parents found that just driving their kids to and from school activities takes up to an average of 38 minutes every day. Over a full school year, that adds up to 6,858 minutes, which is nearly 15 8-hour work days, all spent behind the wheel.
What's Alexa doing this year? Is she going to take a bus? Because she's going to middle school now?
Yeah, probably not. She takes the bus in the afternoon home, but we usually drive her. But we'll see because it's a little different distance. But, it starts earlier, so she'd have to jump on the bus super early, too.
Oh, that's true.
I think it's actually be good for me because I tell you what, I always feel like I get much more done when I wake up earlier. I know you guys wake up early, so
It's
I get no empathy.
Yes.
But when I'm forced to get up, it makes me have a better day usually.
Yes, I'm telling you. All right, let's get to the important story. There's a steakhouse in Florida that's offering a nude dining experience once a month. It's $250 for men, only $150 for women because, right? And $300 for couples. Here is the chef and owner and a hostess discussing.
They disrobed pretty much here. Please allow people to express themselves at our place.
It's more so of a gathering to get to know people, new people in the city and the lifestyle.
Wait, what?
Uh-huh.
The lifestyle?
The lifestyle. Get to know new
okay.
people in the city
But-
as you are naked.
Health code violations
Oh, yeah.
at all?
Listen, they're not cooking. They're just sitting and eating.
Okay.
Fred looks like he wants to go.
Fred's in.
I didn't want to be near someone like that.
That's, you're getting to know people. I can't believe that was what she said. And in science news, the sharpest images ever captured of the sun were just taken by a solar telescope in Hawaii. And the results are apparently incredible. The new pictures reveal just how dynamic the surface of the sun really is. It's like a whirlpool, they say, of superheated plasma. And it's just bursts of that churning all across the sun. It's the best images we've ever had.
Yeah, I saw him earlier this week. It is interesting.
Oh, crazy. And researchers say this could help explain the origins of solar storms that can disrupt satellites and power grids on Earth. And that swirling motion may be why the sun's outer atmosphere reaches temperatures above 1 million degrees Celsius.
Wow.
I know. It's crazy to think about. But if you look that up, you're going to go, oh.
Yeah, I wonder what the heat index is.
Oof, Fred, I don't even know if they can record that. And you know what? Our own Steve Moore, our boss, sent me this. Somebody on the 80s retro thing on Twitter put out, here's what turns how old in 2026. Now, we've covered some of these, but when you see it in one list, it's depressing. Pac-Man was released 46 years ago. The Walkman was released 46 years ago. MTV went on the air 45 years ago. E.T. came out 44 years ago. Ghostbusters is 42. And Golden Girls premiered 41 years ago with Back to the Future. And finally, it's Who's News, today's random fact. You're required to have a net worth of $5 million in order to open a Taco Bell franchise and $2 million of personal liquidity. So if you're thinking about it, that's what you need.
It's a lot lower since the lettuce thing, though.
Yeah.
I'm Dan Loney with Your Money Now. Ford is apparently going to produce a four-door gas-powered version of its iconic Mustang. A sample was shown at a dealer event this week, according to the Wall Street Journal. Reports say that the vehicle would have hybrid power and could be on sale by the end of the decade. Homes sold during the month of June were going below asking price in 38 of the top 50 metro markets. The data coming from real estate site Redfin showed Florida and Texas to be the states where the declines were the greatest. Discounts of around 5% were seen in home sales in Miami and West Palm Beach, and much of the South is selling 2 to 3% below asking price. Wall Street started a new win streak today with the S&P 500 closing in on a new record. The Dow Industrial Average up 151 points at 54,037. NASDAQ added 342. S&P 500 gained 47. West Texas crude up 1% at $78 a barrel. And that's your money now.
That'll be $84.52.
Perfect. Grab the bags, honey. Mom, why do you always check your phone before we pay?
I'm just claiming my cash back on the Upside app. Since we're getting the groceries here and we filled up the car on the way, I've already earned enough this morning to pay for that pizza night we're having Friday.
Wait, so the app pays for pizza?
Not exactly, but the cash I earn on stuff we need helps us pay for the stuff we want. It's just a little win for our family every week.
Get more out of your everyday. Upside is the free app that gets you cash back on routine purchases like gas, groceries, and dining out at more than 100,000 locations nationwide. No points, no rebates, just cash back straight to your wallet. Download the free Upside app and use promo code ACT5 to get a $5 bonus on your first purchase. That's promo code ACT5 to get a $5 bonus. Remember, use promo code ACT5.
Offers vary by user and location at participating merchants. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
This portion of the show on a Friday is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing. All right, the Cardinals back home this weekend. The Rockies in town. Big bobblehead night. Joe and Jack Buck. It looks awesome. You're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going out with my daughter and my wife and a friend of ours, a friend of Alexis tonight. Looking forward to that. We'll have Cusumano weigh in on sports in about 10 minutes or so, just a little bit later in this hour. And then I'm very excited to talk with Sammy Elfanbaum in the next hour. He is the lead singer for a band by the name of Post-Sex Nachos, and they're from right here, kind of in St. Louis. They got together in Columbia at Mizzou, moved to Nashville. They just did take me out to the ballgame at Busch Stadium. They're coming to Del Mar Hall and have a new album out. So Sammy will join me at 5:30. He's probably got family and friends here in the area that might want to hear that. Right now, from Common Guy Films, Paul Hall, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing good. As I mentioned to Fred, I'm the proud owner of 2 Taco Bell locations based on the revenues I get from this program.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Hey, by the way, so Paul is up in Milwaukee, and that's how we got to know each other many decades ago, and you're a Brewers fan. How do people up there look at the trade? Because I saw people thinking that you guys, that we fleeced you. I still think you got some value in this trade, and Dustin May's already pitched. So your thoughts on that?
I love both of the minor leaguers you got. I'm just going to be honest. I think both of them have a chance to be players in the league. And when you're doing this kind of a trade at the deadline and you're dealing with, a rental in Dustin May for the most part and Jojo Romero, who, is a nice acquisition, I think it's pretty fair on both sides given what the needs are at this point in the game. But I think you're going to be hearing from Ragsdale for years to come.
Look, I'm rooting for you guys this year because I know I felt the pain of 1982 when I lived there for 9.5 years. So I hope the Brewers can get over the hump. I'd certainly root for them over the Dodgers and the Yankees and all these other teams. All right, what's new this weekend? You know, a couple things I did want to mention, Paul, before you got going is the numbers, the box office numbers on Spider-Man are just insane. It's over $1 billion. It's over $500,000 here, or $500 million rather, just domestically. And then the Odyssey crossed over to $1 billion as well. So those are big numbers. Toy Story, $1 billion. You can't say the movie business is dead, can you?
Well, you know, it's kind of focused on a couple big titles. The amazing thing about Spider-Man to me is I looked up just before we went on air, Mark, 9 days is all it took for Spider-Man to become the #1 film in 2026. 9 days. It passed everything that's out there. So it kind of slowed a little. We'll see if it's got any legs. I think it doesn't have a whole lot of competition this weekend. Definitely not in the family market for sure.
Well, and so that's why I think you have, I took my daughter. She liked it. She's 11. So you can have a crowd that's certainly a little younger than the Odyssey. And maybe, to your point, there's maybe multiple viewings because there's the comic book geeks out there. Look, I thought that movie was okay. I thought it was adequate. I don't know why everyone thinks it's the best Spider-Man movie, but I'm the outlier on everything. I finally saw the Odyssey last weekend, Paul, and I don't think you heard my rant, did you?
I did not.
Okay. Meh. It's all right. Couldn't hear half the dialogue. Matt Damon was battling people on the ocean a bunch of times. It's not Chris Nolan's best movie by any stretch. I get the filmmaking aspect of it, but I was underwhelmed by the Odyssey. But I'm kind of the outlier on all these things lately, and I can name. Well, first of all, I can name 3 Chris Nolan movies that were better than this. But if I look back in time, I think about Braveheart. I saw Braveheart on a Thursday screening because I was reviewing films even back then. I went back and saw it on a Sunday. I loved it so much. I would have no need to see this movie again.
I would go back and see it on a big screen. And Sue, every now and then Mark's got to be told he's wrong.
Yes, it's true.
Okay.
Problem is,
I'm
not wrong.
It's a much better movie than Mark gives it credit for. It is one of the better titles this year, but I think, as I may have intimated earlier, I'm still in the Project Hail Mary camp, which actually won Best Sci-Fi at the Critics' Choice Super Awards earlier yesterday, I believe they awarded him.
Tell me I'm wrong that Tom Holland is playing anything different in The Odyssey than he is in Spider-Man. And by the way, I can throw John Bernthal in because they're both in scenes together. What was the difference in Tom Holland? Was he Spider-Man in The Odyssey? Was he shooting stuff out of his arm? Because it literally was the same job of acting.
It's simple. There was no webs involved. And it's very easy to tell, Mark. I don't know how you missed that.
I really liked there was one performance that I really liked, the character of Circe, and that was, what's her name? Now I'm forgetting the actress's name, but I was just reading about her in The Hollywood Reporter that she hasn't even had an acting job for the last year ever since The Odyssey. Samantha Morton is her name. She's been in a lot of films and television, but Paul, yeah, she's good, but she said she hasn't even been offered a job in the last year. And, a lot of that is just because I think some of it's age related. She even said that, but that was a little stunning to me. All right, what else you got this weekend?
Let's talk about a couple new movies this weekend. The first one I haven't seen, probably going to be the best one of the weekend, Super Troopers 3. All I got to say is meow, and you'll know that I'm talking about Meow, Super Troopers 3. It's out there this week. I think you'll have some fun with it if you haven't seen it or if you've been a fan of the other two. Again, I have not seen that one. I have seen One Night Only, which is another big release this weekend.
Yeah, what's that one about?
Well, think about The Purge. Okay, take it out of the killing realm and be the one night a year that single individuals are allowed to have sex.
Oh, dear.
Oh, I think you talked about this last week, right?
It was on the agenda to actually open today.
Okay.
Married folks can, of course, do whatever they want. Single people cannot have sex except for one night of the year. So we've got all kinds of weird product placements for condoms and for a Duolingo for teaching people how to experience the night at its best, type of thing, among others.
Thank you.
It actually is quite fun throughout the course of the movie, mainly because of its two leads, Callum Turner and Monica Barbaro. Both of them I like a lot here. It's okay. It's not great, but I had a good time when I saw One Night Only.
What is Ice Cream Man?
You don't want to know. In fact, I came back from the screening that I saw of this. I saw it as part of the Marcus Mystery movie on Monday night, and my daughter asked me about it. I said, Next question. It's that bad. I didn't like it at all. Director Eli Roth. Mark, you know Eli Roth.
Mm-hmm.
And from that name alone, you'll know that, of course, this has got a ton of gore. Do not see this movie unless you want to see a very gory horror movie. And they call it horror. And I asked myself when the movie got over, when did we stop scaring people in horrors? We just try to gross them out in Eli Roth movies.
Right.
It has what should be an interesting plot where an ice cream man comes and gives ice cream to all the kids, and the kids eat the ice cream and then turn on the adults in the area and basically cut them into little pieces. It just is one of those weird movies that I didn't even get excited by anything in this movie. Maybe that shows how sane I am. Maybe it shows how insane I am. I don't know. But Ice Cream Man is going to do a lot of business in the horror market.
All right, so you have a movie that is released on Netflix, which is called The Last House. It's rated PG-13, but this is a bit of a horror movie too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Wagner Moura, who we talked about with The Station Agent last year, alongside Greta Lee. This is one of those films that it's kind of arty in the way that you wouldn't have seen this on the big screen in, going up against any of these other titles for this week. So it debuts directly to Netflix. And it's a tale of you wake up one morning, you got the kids, you got them ready for school, and you go out to open the door and you can't get out of your house. Your house is basically locked you in. And then they find out it's not just one family, it's everybody on the block. So we've got to have one family really carry this throughout the way. Why is it? You'll have to see it to figure it out. I'm not going to give you that. I do say the third act here gets a little weak as it gets to it. Other than that, though, I bought into it throughout the film. I enjoyed it. If you kind of have some little COVID flashbacks that you don't like, you may not want to see this because you are trapped and you are doing things all in your house with your family. Last House is over on Netflix.
Have you checked out the new season of Hard Knocks started on HBO? I'm a huge fan of Hard Knocks. It gets us ready for the NFL season. This year's really good, too, because they are focusing on the Seattle Seahawks. This is a show that's been on HBO Max for a long time. They take a team each year, and they go behind the scenes in training camp. And I really liked the first episode. And the Seahawks, of course, coming off a world championship. Did you see the first episode?
Mark, I hadn't until about 3 hours ago, and I have now seen that first episode, including the Blue Angels in all their glory, which helps a lot at the end. Other than that, it's more NFL Films magic. Those guys with cameras are amazing.
Oh, it's really good. And you know what they do, Sue, at the beginning? And, I have a friend up in Chicago, Len Casper. I used to work with Len at WTMJ. He's the voice of the Chicago White Sox. He went down from WTMJ and won a World Series ring with the Marlins, it was. So they get, the broadcasters get rings.
Yeah.
So I remember about 22 years ago, Paul, being with Len when he came back. He was working for the Cubs at that time because he took the job, after Chip Carey left. And he showed me his World Series ring. It looked like someone's wedding ring compared to what they're wearing today. So in this episode, they show the ring ceremony where they literally have the players at tables with their families, and they have a box that's in front of them, and they get to open the box. And these things have become, they're the size of your hand. You can't really wear them, but there's so many diamonds. I mean, they're freaking cool, don't get me wrong. But it's kind of fun just to see that and to see the players act like little kids when they're getting their $100,000 rings or whatever it is.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Sue.
I was going to say, I've seen 3 Super Bowl rings because Dave Butts, who played for Washington Redskins. Sorry, but it's outdated. But he brought them because he married somebody in my family, so his son did. So he wore all 3 rings to the reception. He said because people ask him all the time. So he just wears them so people can see him. Unbelievable, but that was the 80s.
Right. If you would have, you couldn't possibly do it.
That's what I mean.
They wouldn't fit your fingers. But I did like the first episode. And, one of the things I liked about it is a lot of times they kind of slow roll into the season. They show them setting up at the dorms or wherever the camp is. They got right into it, and they got right into it fast, which I thought was awesome. All right, Paul, tell folks where they can find your reviews.
SimpleCommonGuy.com.
We'll talk next week. Hey, one other question I just thought of. Have you ever seen, we started last night, my wife and I, Tehran, which is on Apple TV+. There's 2 seasons out. Did you ever see that?
I think you will enjoy it.
Yeah,
Stay with it.
I like the first episode quite a bit. Frank Cusumano's coming up next.
Accident on eastbound 70 near Wentzville Parkway and a massive jam behind us. Now, westbound 70 is slow. Highway A out through that area. Now, 70 westbound out of downtown is fine. It's still slow at the Blanchette Bridge. And westbound 40, not that bad. Some moderate volume right around Hampton. Eastbound slows at Big Bend. And then it picks up again westbound at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Just moderate volume, southbound 270. And that's from 6440 down through Doherty Ferry. We've got 255. There was an accident at the JB Bridge. They cleared it, but traffic is in the process of thinning out. Eastbound 64 is slow between 157 and 159, and westbound 5570 slow between 255 and 203. That is due to road work. This report brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, they have been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. Everything from windows to bathrooms, and quality craftsmanship with lifetime warranties. Go to lakesiderd.com. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
We have Chloe Cole coming up after the top of the hour. She is really an interesting story. She is a detransitioner. She's been very active working with Jamie Reed and others on some of the stuff that's going out there with the so-called gender-affirming care. Sammy Elfanbaum, lead singer of a band that I love called Post Sex Nachos. They have St. Louis roots. They live in Nashville now, and they have a new album coming out, and they're coming to Del Mar Hall in October. Halloween night, actually. So we'll have Sammy join us in the next hour. Right now, Frank Cusumano, lots to talk about. We got the Cardinals back in town against the lowly Rockies. We win the series against the Yankees. We better not lose this series, right, Frank?
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, Mark, because we have played well against some of the good teams in baseball, like the Yankees and the Dodgers, and yet, sometimes we play to the level of our competition, and the Rockies are horrible. I will say this, since Busch Stadium was built, Busch Stadium 3 in 2006, the Cardinals have the highest winning percentage of any team against any team in Major League Baseball as they do against the Rockies, which they've won 71% of their games against Colorado at Busch Stadium 3. So This should be a productive series. Kyle Leahy, who has been magnificent for like 2 months now, gets the ball tonight.
How were we overall, do you think, performing post-trade deadline? I mean, the series against the Yankees was a little bit of welcome relief. I think they got back on track, and hopefully, the offense can roll, because that game with, 3 home runs from Burleson was interesting, which, by the way, you can tell me this because you know this stuff, but is it true that none of those home runs he hit would have even gone out of the park at Busch Stadium?
The third one would have for sure. It was
Okay.
429 feet. The first one would not have. It was 350. And the second one, borderline.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But Fred tells me, is Nolan Gorman showing some signs of life? Is that what you're finding?
Yes. There is a pulse. So in his last 14 games, he has 7 home runs. He's hitting home runs every 7 at-bats, and his OPS is over 1,000. Now, he went down there after this dismal season in St. Louis, and first they sent him to Florida, put him in the lab, and he was really brutal for a couple of weeks down there. And so you can't look at his overall stats, but 14 games is not that small of a sample size. He's not chasing, he's drawing walks, and no one's ever denied that he has Herculean strength. I mean, this is a guy at age 23 who had 27 home runs. I'm not saying he's going to turn into Mike Schmidt at third base, but as we know, miracles happen in this Cardinal organization, i.e. Jordan Walker, i.e. Andre Palante. We are going to see him play third base at Busch Stadium before the season is over. And let's give Chaim Bloom the credit. Is they've hired enough instructors, enough people who can break down things and tell them to quit chasing. And who knows what could happen here?
Did Jordan get back on track a little bit this week or not?
Well, no, he's been injured.
Oh,
No,
okay. That's right. He had the knee issue. That's right. Is he back in the lineup tonight?
He is back in the
Okay.
lineup tonight. Knee inflammation, and he is hopefully going to be rearing and ready to go.
We had, and I'm not I love the NFL. You know that, Frank. I'm not a big preseason football guy, but that was actually kind of a fun game last night, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, when you win on a touchdown at the buzzer, that's pretty exciting stuff. And I know we had it on Channel 5 that we had a good rating. It's unbelievable. Preseason football, and I think that's the first sign that if you're betting on it, you may have an issue. But for some reason, we all want to watch it because we want to kind of look at our fantasy teams. Who should we keep an eye on, maybe find a sleeper. I did just read, though, that Patrick Mahomes he's definitely not going to play in preseason game 1. It's doubtful he's going to play at all during the preseason. And look, if he's ready opening day
That's
after
all that
having
matters.
that surgery so late,
Yeah.
that's great.
So I was talking a little bit with Paul Hall, who does the entertainment reporting, about Hard Knocks, because I love Hard Knocks. And in Hard Knocks with the Seattle Seahawks, this always happens at training camp where tempers flare between the offense and defense. There's a story this afternoon that happened with Max Crosby when he hit quarterback Kirk Cousins during, practice today. But if I'm a fan of that team, that's exactly what I want coming out of training camp. I want emotions to run hot, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I will say this, though. If Kirk Cousins is going to be your starting quarterback,
you don't want him hurt.
Probably not a good idea to hit him twice in the right arm. And I love the fact, though, that Cousins, who's really emotional and passionate, yelled right at him, and he grabbed Crosby's jersey. So I imagine it was really fun to watch.
I'm going to have to see the video of that, but I love that, too. All right, what's coming up on the show on Sunday night?
Well, it's Mike Bush's last week in St. Louis, or last week at Channel 5, I should say. He's going to sign off on Thursday at 6 o'clock. But we have we're going to sit him down and talk about his unbelievable career because he's the one who started Sports Plus. He's the one who gave me my job. He's meant so much to me and Channel 5. So we'll sit down with Mike and talk sports, life, and television.
He is a legend.
Great.
There's no doubt about that. I don't know Mike very well, but, I mean, obviously we all know him from being on TV for all these years, and it's awesome that – I like it when, people can still retire, and I'm sure he's going to have a great, retirement to enjoy the family and everything. And then Steve Savard works into that spot, right? That's the next step?
Yeah, as I like to say, we replaced Joe Montana with Steve Young. So
that's a good comparison. All right, hey, Frank, have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
All right, bud.
All right, take care. This annoyed me this morning a little bit. I didn't really feel the need to drag Frank into the conversation, but did you see the Dan Caesar piece this morning in the Post-Dispatch?
Nope.
Well, okay, I think I had forgotten about this, and if I knew about it, I suppose I don't really care. I think it was a period when I was in Columbia, but Dan Caesar, who I think is one of the sports editors over there. So when he writes about media, he does a half a page, right? He can write as long as he wants. But he brings up this whole story about this dust-up between Mike Bush and Zipper Zeppa from years ago when things like almost came to blows.
Why?
So that's my point. Like, why bring that up now? Okay,
I'm
that
not
was
sure.
it was a story, but I mean, it's like a big deal, and it's Mike Bush's last week, and Zipper Zeppa is just out there kind of living his life right now.
Yeah.
I run into him every once in a while. Why in the world would you do that? I don't understand why that was a way to say goodbye or pay tribute to Mike Bush by dredging up all that.
Yeah,
right?
that's weird.
Well, those are my new colleagues there, Sue. I have to be careful. Those are my new colleagues at the Post-Dispatch. I suppose I'll just run into Dan one of these days in the hallway, and I'll say, Dan, why did you do that?
Okay, it looks like they cleared that accident, and this thing was out west on eastbound 70 approaching Wentzville Parkway. I'm not seeing it anywhere, but there was a hideous jam that went back past Forestell, so it's going to take a while for that to thin out. And, of course, that's in the construction zone, which is tricky at best on a good day. Now, westbound 70 out of downtown is fine. It's a little bit slow at the Blanchette Bridge, and then again, Highway A out through Wentzville. 64, moderate volume at Hampton. Eastbound is slowing at Big Bend. And then westbound slows at Prospect. Now, on the Illinois side, we still have a jam on eastbound 64 as you head toward 159. That is due to road work. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, let's take you to the weekend and get you shopping for some new flooring for your home. And it can be a fun process. I've kind of described it that way. If you have the team from Michael's Flooring Outlet on your side and you're looking for hard flooring, you're looking for carpeting, no matter what you're looking for, they got you covered, and they have an amazing assortment of products. I mean, the product lines go endlessly, and it really kind of depends on your lifestyle. If you're looking for certain things that will benefit you, like I have pets climbing around my house. So if things are pet-proof, waterproof, easy to clean, that's something I think we all want. You can still do that with carpet technology. Mohawk, one of the best companies in the entire industry, has some amazing silky soft carpeting, some of the softest on the market, and it's a lot easier to clean and maintain than it used to be. That's all about technology moving forward. Now, if you would like an estimate on any kind of project for your home, you can do it online. You can schedule it that way. You can shop at home. You can order samples. But they have 3 awesome locations of Michael's throughout the area: in Old Town St. Peter's, beautiful store, Darden Prairie, and in Creve Coeur on Olive. They have a great team of experienced folks to guide you into the right products for your lifestyle. You want experts, you want experience. Big box store can't offer that. Michael's Flooring can. 3 great locations. They are closed on Sundays. That website I mentioned, igotfloor.com, from Michael's Flooring Outlet. Well, really, really looking forward to Chloe Cole, who's coming up after the news here. She is a detransitioner and an activist. She has shared her story with Congress and America on gender-affirming care, so she's coming up. And then Sammy Elfanbaum from a great band that's got St. Louis roots called Post-Sex Nachos. Yes, I know it's unique, but we'll talk to him in the next hour as well.
It appears he has the votes. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The Senate could move forward with a procedural vote on confirming Todd Blanche as Attorney General as soon as tonight, after gaining support of Louisiana Republican Bill Cassidy, who said the confirmation process has become politicized.
This process should be about Mr. Blanche and how he will go forward in a difficult job, and how the American people can be best served.
Senators Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine have already said they will vote no. President Trump calling on the Supreme Court to overturn a D.C. appeals court ruling that orders the construction of the White House ballroom to stop. The president saying it's a matter of national security. Meanwhile, the East Wing of the White House has already been demolished and construction has already begun. A helicopter used to fight a wildfire in Utah's crashed. No word on the 2 people on board as fire crews in Washington begin to make progress on 3 major fires there, though people are still not allowed back home.
Spokane County Sheriff John Knowles has stressed it could take weeks before officials can let folks back into affected burn areas, asking evacuees for patience.
It is only safe for our fire crews to go in there and do assessments. They have aerial assets that we're using to try to identify destroyed structures and get accurate counts.
A man accused of setting one of the fires faces arson charges.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. National Economic Council President Kevin Hassett reacting after the Labor Department reports employers cut 23,000 jobs last month.
The weakness in this number were really just 2 things: government workers and a sort of rebound from all the employment we got from the World Cup, because the World Cup was ending.
Economists were expecting an increase of more than 80,000 jobs. The unemployment rate declined 4.1%, but the Labor Department says that may indicate more people leaving the workforce. America is listening to Fox News.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil, one simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Well, I'm kind of spoiled, Sue. I already have my Jack Buck and Joe Buck bobblehead, thanks to
Thank you, Fred.
our friends at the Cardinals and Fred. Yes, but I am going to the game tonight as well, and I'm looking forward to it. The Cardinals back in town against the Rockies, and, you know, to have Joe will be at the game. He'll be in the broadcast booth, which is awesome. I mean, I really miss him calling baseball. I really do. I think he's an outstanding broadcaster in every way, shape, or form, but on baseball in particular. There's a band that I've expressed my love for called Post-Sex Nachos. I realize that is an unusual name. We will find out the the birth of that name from Sammy Elfanbaum, who's a member of the band. He's from right here in St. Louis, and the band members are too. They moved to Nashville. They formed at Mizzou at the University of Missouri-Columbia, and they've got a new album coming out, and I've been raving about it, so Sammy's going to join us. Plus, we have an audio cut of the day coming up here at the bottom of the actually at the bottom of the hour, the last part of the hour. I can't even put my words together here, Sue. Thank God it's Friday, right? This could not be a better soundbite for my next guest, and this is something that's happened down in Texas, where a whistleblower, not unlike Jamie Reed here in St. Louis, has come forward on gender-affirming care.
I observed the harmful effects of sex change hormones and puberty blockers for children who were convinced this would be, quote-unquote, life-saving treatment. I witnessed how doctors emotionally blackmailed parents by telling them that if they did not affirm their child's delusion, their child would harm themselves. In particular, I was saddened to see young girls suffering from profound mental health struggles like depression or anxiety, many of whom had also suffered sexual abuse or trauma, persuaded by doctors at TCH that hormones would resolve their gender confusion.
Well, and sadly, that story, I think, is shared by my next guest. Chloe Cole is with me. She is detransitioning, has been active in sharing her story with Congress and the country. She's with us this afternoon on 97.1 FM Talk. Chloe, how are you?
Mark, I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
That was kind of a relatable soundbite, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean, everything that I and thousands of these children in the so-called gender clinic system have suffered through is unimaginable. But we're seeing so much movement in our culture, in our law and legislation that is moving, and it's been just unbelievable over the last few years.
So I know quite a bit about your story. I've followed it, but for the audience who might not know, kind of go back to when you were a kid, you were confused, you were the youngest of 5 children. You even say you were very separated from your older siblings, so that was a tough situation. You weren't fitting in at school. So what led you to, a route of transitioning at first?
So I'd always been a little bit more of a tomboy, relating a little bit more to the boys in my class or my brothers, but that was never the problem. The little girl who I was never the problem. I was made to feel that I was not beautiful enough. I was bullied, that I would never be feminine enough. And of course, puberty was an incredibly uncomfortable time for me, as it is for any girl, especially in this day and age where we have constant comparisons to other women, these impossible images that we see in the media. But I learned about the transgender community when I was about 12 years old through social media. And that was when I got this idea that maybe I wasn't a young woman. Maybe I was actually born as a young man in the wrong body.
Yeah, so that was something. I mean, look, we've seen this ramp up and significantly, but most people do say, I think a lot of folks, go back to the origin on social media and some of the influencers and some of the things that we're seeing there. And that's what happened, right?
Right. And the feelings they had, that discomfort, that awkwardness was something that was already there, but it was nothing that was really significant. It's something that I absolutely could have grown out of, but I wasn't given that opportunity by the doctors who my mom and dad entrusted with taking care of me and allowing me to just be a kid.
Yeah. So what happened with the doctors? How did that go at first?
They told my mom and dad that there was no other choice but to transition me. Otherwise, I would certainly commit suicide from the distress. And when you as a doctor are presenting that sort of ultimatum to parents who are unsuspecting, who know absolutely nothing about this issue, they are going to trust your judgment on that. So at 13 years old was when I began the medical experimentation, and I was put on Lupron to suppress my puberty. I was put on weekly doses of male hormones, and at 15 years old, before I had my first kiss, my breasts were surgically removed, and that part of me was gone forever.
But were you, when all this was happening, obviously the parents are involved, the doctors are involved, what is your thought process through all that? Obviously it's very different now, but when you were going through this, what were you thinking?
I believe the experts.
Yeah.
I believe these people who had the degrees on the wall and had all the evidence to suggest that this would have been something that was helpful for me. I really bought into this idea that I actually was a young man and that this was truly making me into that person who I was told I was.
So then
until after I had surgery, and then I learned that as I got a little bit older, I wanted to become a mother and a wife, and the entire fantasy of transitioning just completely broke, because that was when I learned none of this is actually bringing me closer to any sort of self-actualization, and it's hurting me.
Yeah. And then so a lot of this is when you even say you were 15 when you had the double mastectomy, right?
Yes.
So then how old were you when you start to think, uh-oh, this is not what I want?
It was just 11 months afterward. I was 16 years old.
That was that
I was
soon.
a junior in high school.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have a congressman from here in Missouri. His name is Bob Onder. And you know that he's spearheading legislation bearing your name, right? The Chloe Cole Act.
Yes. And it's not only going to make it so that these treatments, this experimentation is illegal for every child in the United States, but also those of us who have already been hurt, such as the hundreds of my friends who have also gone through the transition process and come back out of it with regret and damaged their bodies, will be able to hold their doctors to account in the court system. And I am just so incredibly grateful to Bob Onder for not just creating this in my name, but for honoring all the children and the families who have been through what I have.
You know, it's a confusing thing to me because I've talked about this for a long time and, you know, you battle with people and I battle with people here on the radio and on social media. And, you know, obviously this has become, for whatever reason, a partisan issue, which is really confusing to me. I mean, in the case of Jamie Reardon, I'm assuming you know Jamie pretty well. She was a lesbian married to a trans person, right? And you're someone who transitioned, who thought, wait a second here. This is, you know, not what I thought was going to happen. And, you know, if you read Jamie's original piece that was in the Free Press, and I'm sure you've read it, Chloe, it just matches up exactly with some of the things that you were being told. Some of the kids that were coming through St. Louis at this clinic who had, in many cases, severe mental illness were just being told that being hopped up on puberty blockers and hormones was going to fix their problem.
Absolutely. And at a glance, this appears to be a political issue. But when you really pay attention to it, when you look at what is actually happening in these clinics, what these clinicians are telling children and their families, and at the polling of even constituents from the bluest of areas, the bluest of cities, people are strongly against this because they realize that this is far too inappropriate for a child to be making, that it's very adult in nature, and that no child has the judgment to be able to make long-term decisions on their bodies, on their sexuality, or their identity.
What is your relationship like with your mom and dad over all this?
It was something that was very strained over the course of all of this because I was very quickly becoming somebody who I wasn't. I was no longer that recognizable, bubbly little girl who I used to be. And it just wrecked them to see what was happening to me. But when I came back out of this, they at first were filled with a lot of guilt, a lot of regrets. But by the grace of God, I have been able to recover things that I had lost before. I've been able to get my health back, and I've been able to repurpose everything that I have been through and my family have been through to help other families and make sure that this will never happen ever again to any child in the United States.
But Chloe, I'm guessing, because I know I've seen this happen with a lot of folks, including Jamie, with Riley Gaines, with Jen Say, a lot of folks who are, fighting this battle from maybe a different perspective with, girls in sports. But my guess would be you're having a lot of hate, perhaps, thrown your way over this from the trans community. Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, From the very beginning of my detransition, people from who I considered friends had abandoned me, and they were telling me that I should kill myself, that I was a complete idiot, that I should have known better, even though I was only a child when all this happened to me. And I knew that if I chose to speak up, that reaction would only worsen, that it would only fuel the fire. But I didn't care because I knew the cost of silence. I knew the cost of adults being silent, and I wanted to make sure that my fate will never be seen ever again by any other child.
And how
that alone makes it worth the hate.
Yeah, no, and I get that. And how are you doing now? Like, what is the process like now? And can you just kind of run us through that? Is it? I mean, I guess this would be physically somewhat uncomfortable, like it was the first time. But how would you explain or describe that?
So when I detransitioned, I went off of hormones cold turkey, which I would not recommend doing to anybody who's listening who is questioning detransition. I suggest that you see a doctor, you have them involved, somebody who's not going to push you further into the process, but will help you in safely getting off of all the drugs and everything involved. But I was very sickly for a little bit, and it's been 5 years since my last shot of the hormones, and I'm still having health issues. I still have very high levels of testosterone, very low levels of estrogen. I have the thing that affects me most every day is the pain that happens in my pelvis, in my joints, and it's very likely that I'm going to have to incur lifelong costs just to get back to a healthy baseline. And nobody knows what my future or what my fertility even looks like.
A lot of folks, when this happens with young kids, I'm just curious about your position on this. Sometimes I think the diagnosis is, gender affirming care, when the situation really is they're gay. They're gay or lesbian, right? So is that your situation or not? To get personal, obviously.
So there are a lot of these young people who fall into gender confusion, who also experience sexual attraction to the same sex. I personally was not one of those kids. And the vast majority of people are dealing with some sort of mental ill health issue that might be undiagnosed, such as depression or anxiety or trauma. Many of them have been through sexual abuse, or they have comorbid conditions such as autism that just naturally make building your identity, socializing, relating with other people more difficult. I think it's so much more than just one issue that leads to gender dysphoria. It's very multifaceted in one's life. What eventually leads to them having that confusion around their bodies.
So, I've said this before. I don't know if you have this perspective. I'm guessing you might, but I have a fair amount of friends who are in my age group who are gay, and they've been friends for a long time. And the gay and lesbian friends I have, they're not too crazy about this whole gender affirming care stuff at all. And, I think that might surprise folks, but they're even called, if there's a female that's attracted to someone who is becoming a female and was a male, and that person might not be interested in them, then they're transphobic.
And that's completely ridiculous because people can't control whether they're attracted to somebody or not. That's a very entitled mindset for a lot of these more activist types of transgender people who demand that they have access to women's sports, women's spaces, and demanding that people who are never going to be attracted to them will get into relationships with them.
Yeah.
We can have compassion for these people, and we can have empathy for them while also putting up a boundary.
What is the, and forgive me for not knowing this, but what is the status of Congressman Andrews' bill right now, the Chloe Cole Act?
So it has just passed through the Judiciary Committee, and it's yet to be heard, I think, by either the Senate or the House. But with so many sponsors and so much support for it this year, I am very cautiously hopeful for it.
But you have like a lot, I call them the alphabet mafia, but the civil rights, the LGBTQ plus groups, they're all against this, right?
Well, of course. I mean, they have every incentive to stand against it because it's attacking one of the most lucrative parts of the industry, which is performing this experimentation on children. The younger that you go, the more drugs you put them on, the more complications that arise from that, and you turn them into lifelong patients. But also beyond that, beyond how lucrative it is, their ideology claims that there is such thing as transgender children, that being transgender is not just a mental illness, but an inborn condition. And the younger you catch them and transition them, the better.
Yeah, right. And I've heard that before, and that's what's pretty scary. Have you had conversations, and again, I'm guessing you have with younger people who are going through the process that you were going through, and have you kind of coached them through it a little bit?
Yeah, so I regularly speak with people who are detransitioning or people who come with me just to have conversations about this on college campuses, at debates, and even just on a personal basis. And people all throughout the transition process who are seeking the prospect of it, who are currently struggling with the confusion, or they're in the middle of it, but they're seeking other options, or they've already made the choice to stop transitioning, but they just want to hear about how it really is to go through it and maybe safer ways to go through it than I did without really any information.
Well, look, I think you're extremely brave. Again, we've been following your story here because we know Jamie so well and some of the other things that are happening. And obviously, I know Congressman Andrews. So we'll track the legislation, Chloe. But I know how difficult all of this has been. But thanks for coming on here this afternoon, sharing your story, and keep up the fight. And thanks for doing all this because I think it's important for people to know.
Well, thank you so much for talking about this with me today.
Take care, Chloe. Thank you very much. Oh, I think I forgot that I have music. I do this every time at 5:20. You know what happens, Sue? This is where Ethan sometimes reminds me, and Mark forgets that I play bumper music in the 5 o'clock hour because
that's right.
I get very, this is just my self-indulgent bumper music since I don't get to play it the rest of the week. Anyway, this is a great band called Goose. We're coming back with more
Things look great through North County at this time. Really no delays there. Westbound 70 a little bit slow, 141 to just past the Blanchette Bridge. Now, an earlier accident and road work has left us with a delay on eastbound 70 east of Wright City, almost through Wentzville Parkway. But 40 itself, westbound looks pretty good until you get out to Prospect. Eastbound is slowing at Big Bend. 55, let's see, down south, how is it? Yeah, it is slowing, and this is kind of approaching Highway M to south of Barnhart. And a lot of that is due to road work, but we also have an accident reported there. And Highway 141 is pretty slow this afternoon at Bowles, especially southbound. And on the Illinois side, 5570, and this is westbound, slowing at from 255 to 203 due to road work. Eastbound 64 lines up as you head for 159. And an accident now, westbound 64 before 25th Street, and look for a jam back to 111. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
I decided to go a little country here this afternoon. I don't do a lot of country anymore, but I love this song. It's by a guy named Corey Kent, and he's doing it with a big star, Jason Aldean. It's got a great finish to it. I'll play that here in just a couple of minutes. Sue, do you know who Enes Kanter Freedom is?
I don't think so.
So he is a Turkish player for the NBA, played in the NBA for 10 years. He legally changed his name to Freedom after becoming a U.S. citizen in 2022. It's a great story. They used to feature him on Fox, but he's not in the NBA anymore. But guess what?
What?
He has an amazing opportunity. He has declared himself eligible for the WNBA draft.
After careful consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027. I am definitely not here to mock, make fun of, or disrespect any community or personal choices. I am simply asking that the current rules be applied equally to everyone. The rules that represent the very values many WNBA players and coaches have publicly advocated for. My team and I are prepared to ensure these guidelines are applied equally, consistently, and without exception. And I look forward to the WNBA honoring its stated principles. See you at training camp.
That's going to be awesome. I don't know if it's going to be the Aces from Las Vegas or the Lynx, or maybe that team up in Seattle. I think it's going to be fun to see. So Megan Rapinoe, who used to be on the U.S. women's soccer team, World Cup, she's a pretty good soccer player. She's a disgusting human being. She's just revolting. And here's what she says about Sophie Cunningham and Riley right now.
I don't know Sophie, so I can only project what I see about her beliefs based on her actions. And seeing a picture of her with Riley Gaines after the game told me everything I need to know about what's happening. Riley Gaines has made it her life's mission to exclude trans people.
That's not true.
What?
It's exactly the opposite, which is ridiculous. Some of the people that are out there, like Megan Rapinoe, are trying to say that, like, Riley Gaines and Sophie Cunningham are not elite athletes. They are.
Respond to the insults about, she's not really that good anyways. Again, they've used this intended insult for many years now. They're doing it to Sophie. I don't feel like I need to justify how fifth in the entire country isn't elite, how I'm a 12-time All-American, a 5-time SEC champion, the SEC record holder in the 200 butterfly, making me one of the fastest Americans of all time. I don't feel like I need to justify that because it doesn't matter. The basis of my argument is that men aren't women and they can't become women, and you don't have to be a fast swimmer or an Olympic champion to know that.
Yeah, and she does such a great job. I love her so much, and the way that a lot of people have come together on this, especially Sophie recently, more of a response to Megan here.
I'll first respond to Megan Rapinoe, who says, my goal is to exclude trans people from public life. I guess the question I would pose to Megan is, can you provide an example of this? Because it's not at all what I'm proposing. It's not at all what I'm advocating for. What I'm advocating for is fairness in women's sports. That's it. And in that, there is no exclusion of trans athletes or trans individuals. It's merely just compete in the category that aligns with your sex.
That's right.
So it's a total lie. But again, not surprising, we see this from Megan Rapinoe, who just said on The View recently that there's a bill in Washington, D.C. That would allow legislators to inspect the genitals of little girls to determine their sex. I mean, that is so outlandish and absolutely inaccurate and totally false. What she's referring to is the cheek swab. It's a simple, non-invasive, effective cheek swab that would test for the SRY gene, which is only present in Y chromosomes, which is only present in men. And that's what you've seen these tennis players, a part of the WTA, in full support of, people like Sabalenka, who said, I'm actually glad we're doing this sex screening because elite athletes want this.
Yeah, and she's the #1 ranked tennis player on the planet, Sabalenka is. Now, we had Coco Gauff, one of our highly ranked American tennis players, kind of wimp on that question. But on the issue of Enes Kanter Freedom and his declaring for the WNBA draft.
I've seen people online say that Enes Kanter Freedom is making a mockery of women's sports, but that's not at all what he's doing. He's making a mockery of the people who have made a mockery of women's sports. And so I think it's fantastic. I think it's brilliant and genius. The WNBA now has the opportunity to put their money where their mouth is. They can either recruit and sign Enes Kanter Freedom to a WNBA team, or they can prove themselves as total I mean, just absolutely bigots who don't believe the things that they're actually advocating for. So I think it's really brilliant.
I hope this stuff does not go away. I hope it gets attention. Now, listen to this. These are New York Times reporters ripping on Sophie Cunningham.
Sophie Cunningham is doing a pretty blatant, like, right-wing grift.
Yeah. She's doing a hard pivot right. And I just think that she knows what she's doing, and she knows that ultimately her basketball career is only going to be so long. She's not the best player. She's not.
Well, she's a great player, even if she's not the best player. And by the way, here's the thing. Right wing, no, it's the majority of Democrats.
sense.
Yeah, she's leaning to common sense. Again, the majority of Democrats, especially where we are here in the middle of the country, they think this stuff is nuts and they can't stand it. Like I said, the gays and lesbians don't like it either, but they keep going down this path. It's unreal that they want to die on this hill, but keep it up. I think it's backfiring.
Gosh, on the Illinois side, an accident westbound 64, and this is at 37th Street. So it's before you get to 25th Street, huge jam behind it, and eastbound drivers slowing for a look. 5570 westbound is jammed from 203 back to 255, all due to road work. We appear to be okay on the bridges downtown. Eastbound 40 slow 170 through Big Bend. Out west, westbound lines up Lake St. Louis Boulevard out through 70. And 70 westbound, there was an accident reported near 94. Eastbound 70 slowing east of Forestell. And let me check 55. Yeah, there was a slow go and still is on either side of Highway M. And 44 is a little bit slow out at the Gray Summit area right at 109 and some moderate volume just west of Highway 100. This report brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. And you know what? We want to congratulate them. It's their 50-year anniversary. And you don't stay in business that long by not supplying quality products with outstanding service. The key is their experienced staff. Contact Barron Mirror Glass and Door today and let them show you why 50 years, just the beginning. Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Not gonna lie, Sue, I was a little let down when I got out to the Merritt's Complex on 44 and I didn't get to see the geyser yesterday. The eastbound traffic was still backed up and they were still trying to clean it up. But that was, for those people who missed that, I still have the videos up on the X Twitter because that was something.
It was
I mean,
nuts.
You don't see that very often. It was like a big water explosion in the middle of 44, right?
For a long time.
And it lasted for a while. That's right. And there was still, like I said, that traffic took a long way to just unwind from, after they cleaned that up. All right, we got an interview with Post-Sex Nachos coming up. And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing. So I love this band. They're called Post-Sex Nachos. And they got together in Columbia, Missouri, a bunch of kids from this area in St. Louis. It's a song called Growing Old from their last album. They got a new album coming out, and last week at Busch Stadium, they did this.
Tip the cap to Post-Sex Nachos as they lead us in singing, Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Cardinals fans, on your feet! Cubs fans, sit down! Take me out.
Oh, I love it. Well, I think one of my favorite parts of this is hearing the U-Man say the name Post-Sex Nachos. But Sammy Elfanbaum, who is the lead singer for the band, is with us this afternoon on 97.1 FM Talk. Sammy, how are you?
We've got westbound 70 in good shape right now, and that's even past the Blanchette Bridge where we had an earlier accident in the right lane. 64 westbound looks good. Now, it's slowing at Lake St. Louis Boulevard, but that's a lot of miles before you get that far out. On the Illinois side, westbound 5570, slow pockets from 255 all the way to 203. This is all due to road work. And there was an accident, pretty serious, westbound 64 near 37th Street. That's just past 111, and it's created a parking lot jam back to 255. And drivers eastbound are slowing there as well. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, Sue, we are at the finals of the Summer MAC Racquetball League, and
Oh.
I have moved on. You know why?
Why?
Because the guy I was supposed to play is injured. So I get the forfeit. I move on to my match
Oh,
on
dear.
Sunday. I cannot wait. So I'll keep you posted on that. This guy's beat me before, so I don't think it's going to last very long. But I do love playing in the league at the MAC. We were always talking about some of the great things that they do here. We do as members of the club for charities in St. Louis. We pick 3 children's charities every year. This year, it's Books for Newborns, Joshua's Great Things, which helps families and kids with brain cancer, and Missouri Kids Coalition, which is an organization that helps athletes who suffer life-altering injuries that threaten their independence and future. Missouri Kids steps in. They give them great, great support. So awesome stuff always going on. By the way, I hang out at the West location a lot more than downtown. And the Stan Musial Grill is back open. They were doing some renovations, so back open with some great new hours and some specials as well. Of course, you can come downtown to the Jack Buck Grill, have some food or some drink, and head down to the ball game with a shuttle as well. So check out the MAC anytime at mac-stl.org. I got to tell you, on the musical front, this is a new song from Brandon Flowers from his album Thrasher, which is just killer. He's released 3 songs from this album. This is a new one called Tiger's Blood, and I just love it. And I told you, Sue, this is kind of like a country thing for him. He has not done a solo project outside of the Killers in 11 years, and this is like a country western Americana direction, kind of drawn from his childhood when he grew up in Utah before he moved to Las Vegas. It was recorded in Nashville. Sean Everett, Jonathan Rado, big-name producers down there. David Rawlings on guitar, pedal steel player. Bruce I love the pedal guitar, right? Bruce Boughton is on there, and then Charlie McCoy playing the harmonica. But I'm telling you, from these 3 songs, and I played you Plans when it first came out, and I quizzed you guys, remember? Because it sounds nothing like Brandon.
We could not tell.
Because Brandon's singing in a lower octave, maybe 2 octaves lower than I've ever heard him in my life, but that song just grew on me. And then the next song was Paradise, and this one, Tiger's Blood, another one. So it's 10 tracks, I think, total. The album is out on August 21st, but I wasn't expecting to like the stuff from Thrasher as much as I do. And there's some self-autobiographical stuff in there with the lyrics, and I'm just a big Killers fan and Brandon Flowers, but I love what I'm hearing from that so far. So it's coming out. The full album is out in less than 2 weeks, and that song is out today.
Stand by. Playback ready. Now, the audio cut of the day.
You know what I've missed a little bit here, Sue, and we might be getting more of these.
Do tell.
Because, if we go back a couple years, we were getting these every week at this time. But a little word salad from our old friend Kamala Harris.
Hobbies or interests help you stay balanced?
All right, did you hear the question? What hobbies or interests make you balance? All right, I'll play it again
All
here
right.
so you can. The audio's not great here, but
Hobbies or interests help you stay balanced?
I love to cook. For me, cooking is something that is about the activity of cooking, which is everything from, preparing a meal, chopping vegetables, whatever it might be,
yes,
to feeding people.
Yes.
And then, sometimes it's just as simple as just like, literally instead of texting,
doing the dishes,
calling people I haven't talked to in a while just to catch up. And it's important to find ways to balance out those various emotions and perspectives, because you can never give up in terms of having a sense of hope.
Yeah. I'm relatively convinced. Look, I'm going to just tell you, as someone who talks for a living, and you can relate with this too, and unfortunately it happens more often than I'm, comfortable with, but there's times where you just lose your train of thought, right?
Yes, 100%.
But with her, it happens every time.
Well,
like she didn't even know, by the end of that, she didn't even know what the question was, right?
And the question was, what hobbies? What in there? What?
How hard is that? Unless you just don't have any hobbies.
Yeah, I mean, guess maybe she does.
That's kind of sad.
Talking to people on the phone is now a hobby.
I told you that. I always kind of like to hear, I didn't ask Sammy this question, but I remember having Mike Schilt in the studio for the first time.
Oh,
and I asked him, I told you the story, I asked him what he kind of did outside of baseball. And Sue, there was literally nothing. There was literally nothing.
Yes.
I stumped him. He's like, nope. But that's what makes guys like that so good at what they do.
Right.
But look, I don't work for a living, so maybe I'm not the best example, but good Lord, get out there. Even Mike Matheny. I saw Matheny a couple weeks ago. You know what his new thing is?
What?
Pickleball.
I love
it. Yeah. He doesn't look
looking good.
Looks
That
a lot
might
better
be
than
a
I do.
side
I'll tell you
hobby.
what, that does help. Absolutely. All right. Tiger's Blood, new Brandon Flowers. I love it. Sue, have a great weekend.
You too, Mark.
We'll talk on Monday at 3.